Welcome, everyone, to the KESHE Corona Telegram meeting in English. It's the North American team. The hosts are Alex Skork and myself, Mark Anderson. It's November 15th, 2020. I want to welcome you all here for joining and coming and sharing knowledge. And that's why they refer to us as knowledge seekers. What I'd like to do is just play a few questions from the 354 workshop, where Mr. Keshe answers a few questions at the end while we allow people, participants, to come in and join. So let's play about 20 minutes of that, and hopefully Alex will be joining us by then, and we'll continue to share more knowledge, universal knowledge, knowledge that elevates and shows us who we are in the universe. So let's go right there as I admit another attendee.
Prize to be the, but what happened? I think I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there.
But what happens is I felt good all day when I feel stronger when I do things not just for myself. This is what I wanted to say. This is what I'm understanding with all this. But you wanted to stop me?
No, it's just that you keep on going, but don't understand where you're going. But okay, that's usual with you. That's good. I understand a lot of it. Something which Stefania brought up is the new teaching, which is going on the private teaching, and actually to do everything from the basic. And this is started with Jalal. We're trying to find a way with Rick and Sandy how we could bring this to still be part of the teaching of the main teaching, but as they are teaching the basic for the knowledge seekers, students of KFSSI, to be brought into public domain as part of the basic teaching. And hopefully sooner or later we find a way to do it, that it becomes part of, but doesn't become another separate section to be. Now that we can fully understand and be able to what we call check the knowledge that has become the raw material teaching. The wrong things, or not the wrong things, the wrong way of doing things does not become part of. Because even though it looks good when it's made, but it could have some fault in it. And from basic practical, literally how to make them nanoplates and everything else, is going on in the private teaching on Wednesday, which Stefania is talking about. And somewhere, when you go for hours and hours, it cannot become part of the KESHE Foundation teaching platform on Tuesdays or Wednesdays with Rick, or Thursdays with us. Or it can be compressed, that it could be half an hour in different teachings. We can bring it in that a lot of knowledge seekers learn the basic, and this is what Jalal is doing in the background. We just haven't found the balance where to put it, or how to condense these teachings into a public teaching, maybe on a Thursday or a Wednesday or a Tuesday for half an hour, that the week before teaching is condensed and is put out. But it's actually those who want to understand the basic of the A to Z of the what we call how to make nanoplates and physical part of it, because Rick's part is very advanced. People are already in there, they're testing new things. This is actually how to make things. And there is a message just been sent by the IT. It's from Zara Martin. It says, hello, Mr. Keshe. Also, we test and test of the death. Quran. So we all gonna taste, and we taste this death. Even the angels of death, peace be upon him. You came here to teach the knowledge with respect, Mr. Keshe. Are you meant to be buried in Medina? We have never been buried. We live in the dimension of the soul. And a physical body is in essence of the man. And in totality, we are travelers of time. And in reality, we choose the time, the place, and the physicality which we decide to manifest ourselves within. So, is it buried in Medina? Is it still unknown where it is? Or is it buried, we don't know where it is? In either state, it's the state of the knowledge of the man and understanding of the truth. If I'm correct, what the gentleman is referring to, or the lady, is, are you the soul of Muhammad, bless his name? In physicality, the physical body always is left behind. It's the soul of the Creator which moves from dimension to dimension. And in so many times, if the Creator has spent so much time on this planet, there has been a reason. Not only for this, but for the totality of the creation. Maybe I have answered you. Souls never die. And in souls we live, we teach, and we manifest.
Beautiful answer, Mr. Keshe. I was just trying to answer his question, whether we can ask that question for him and so on. Perfect, thank you. There's one other question in the YouTube that I'd like you to answer, which from Alexandra Perez, who says, hello, Mr. Keshe, I'm from Brazil. My question is, how can we connect with our freedom from physicality? How can we achieve this condition right now? Thanks.
It's all a state of mind. It's all a state of mind. And in how we decide to operate within that state of mind. In essence, we live the life through the soul, but we can choose to live in the life in the dimension of the physicality when we choose. This is the beauty of the new cycle. The beauty of the new, what we call essence of living, being part of. And then the choice is yours. It's very much, if you look, the lady in the beginning, in part of the session today, referred to part of our teaching is like the Baha'i teaching. I was brought up in the Baha'i family, but I never agreed with the ethos. The way was changed by those who follow. In a way, as I was in it, created it, how could I understand the misconduct? And I do not agree with none of what the Baha'i faith stands for today, in what shape or form, as they have broken the agreement with the Creator to the benefit of them. In essence, this path was to guide man to freedom, and he got abused by those who thought they have reached the pinnacle of doing whatever they like. Never served what it was set and what I set it up to be. The same greed, the same misconduct, the same arrangement as before. Gather wealth and power and abuse it when the man needs to use it. And this is the same. None of the religions ever stood for what I set them up for. And the Baha'is went worse than the others in a shorter time. In a shorter time. My agreement was peace and for all. Not greed to gather and stash away like the others. Building buildings, put temples from the sweat of the others was a job of the path. It was not the way we set it to be. And that has become the main. Building more temples to believe in nothing. My path does not go and has been away for years, as it's not the way we set it to be. But in ethos, the teaching is the same with all the religions, as we wrote all of them in the same way, according to the understanding and the intelligence of the man at the time and the place. Man should be strong enough to know when it's wrong and the way it's done the wrong way. the word have lost their meanings in bricks and mortar, with the same as the others. The belief was to bring equality of all has become the biggest misconduct of all. The only difference is again back in Jerusalem. Any other question? When you see a misconduct, when you see something wrong, you have to be strong enough to stand it and walk away from it. And this is what happened with me and the Baha'i faith. I walked away as a misconduct is beyond imagination, in the name and the cover of religion. Same as others. What's the next question?
Okay, we've got Caleb, who had a question in the Q&A regarding, he mentioned the word religion has been making things unnecessarily difficult for humans. Does the good sir know about the teaching of the unity of witnessing of the Ahmad Sirhindi?
Never heard of him.
Sirhindi.
Never heard of him. As I said, I'm a very illiterate man when it comes to these things. I just had the privilege to be with few prophets. The others who claim things that I don't have had no time with.
Thank you. Maria asks, Mr. Keshe, is the event that the time of dwelling for mankind is over caused by the solar lightning? Thank you. Love, Maria.
What do you want to blame it on? Blame it on. It doesn't matter. The solar flare, somebody sneezed. What is your excuse to believe in it?
Thank you. Jackie mentions the Trump Chief of Staff Meadows has tested positive for COVID-19 this week.
Yes, but they didn't tell anyone, apparently, and all shook hands with him, and everybody's in problem, as they didn't have enough problem in the White House.
Well, if you close your eyes and plug your ears, don't things just go away?
Well, apparently it does, because don't forget, these people have access to latest technologies and medicine to be helped with. Have we finished for today? I should call it a day. We're nearly 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope these teachings, which have started in understanding the emotion and the position and the presence, will start taking shape and a meaning for you in coming weeks, as you gradually start seeing the totality of the picture. You think you know everything about the physical life. Now, understanding the work of the soul is much simpler, but in a way, I made myself in the image of whatever, man, or whatever. In that process, is man to understand the truth about his own creation. And we are in that process. Not only we start teaching you, we start showing you technologies which brings that to a meaningful end and to a full understanding. We are not here to elevate, we are here to make it easier for you to understand, to elevate yourself. Elevating the knowledge of the universe, and the knowledge that will change you for better. To be a better human being, to be a better soul in serving the others. And many people would not like the path, as they have to give up a lot of bad habits of the past. But in a way, at the end, we have always won, and we will win. Thank you very much for today, and hopefully we see each other next week and the week after, till we take man into the dimension of universal community, which is the understanding of soul of himself. Thank you very much for today.
So I hope everyone listened carefully. You can always review this. As Mr. Keshe said, none of the religions stood for what I set them up for. When he was asked about this gentleman Hindi, he said, I'm a very illiterate in these areas. I had just only spent some time with some of the prophets. So depending on what it means to you and your soul, I think you can figure out who we have in our presence. Alex, I'm glad you joined us. I had gotten a message that you were having trouble coming in.
Trouble has been resolved.
Excellent. I was going to have to go to Plan B, and I didn't know what Plan B was going to be. I'm glad you're here.
Plan B is look at Plan A.
Got it. So thank you for joining. And if you're ready to start, we can start, or we can discuss this little 15-minute clip Mr. Keshe had delivered to us last Thursday. But if you're ready, we can go right ahead with that.
I would like to go ahead. Yes, please.
Yes, good.
And I would also like if you could allow me to record, please.
Okay, will do. You're all set.
Okay, thank you.
If anyone else would like to record, just send me a message or raise your hand now. And if the system allows you to, we will allow you to record.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's another beautiful day in the universe. Here in Canada, it's actually raining.
We see your screen.
And my name is Alex Skorik. I'm from Canada. Mark, please let me know if the audio and the video is working.
Perfectly.
Okay, well, this is very good. And looking at the panel today, I want to thank everyone for showing up for the North American Corona. We call it the Soul Presentation, because really what we're trying to do is to try and figure out how this coronavirus is affecting us. And clearly it's we have to do a lot of soul searching on that particular subject. Yes, it is the North American Corona team, and that includes Canada, US, and Mexico. But if you look at the panel today, you can see that it's a worldwide panel. And I really appreciate all of you coming, especially those who have come at a time of the day when it's close to your late evening. So we appreciate that. And for all the Americans, we appreciate you taking time out from the NFL football games, because those things are very, very important in North America, as is the May 2-4 weekend here in Canada. And yeah, I'm being sarcastic, but you know, it's a real problem, because we're not addressing the situation. First of all, I would like to remind people that we do have private teachings. I would like to remind people that the KESHE Foundation Spaceship Institute admission to these classes is 100 euros. And for some, that may be too much. There was a time when that was too much for me. But, you know, $8,000 a year at a university or $2,600 a year at a college is also too much for me. So the thing is that we have about 5 years of archives, plus, and now we've extended the teaching to many, many public platforms. And one of the biggest platforms, of course, is in Austria, where we are displaying 50 years of technology as accumulated by Mr. Keshe. And there are a lot of things to see here, and there are a lot of things that are here that are actually unseen. And it all depends on if you have the eyes to see. And this is kind of the conundrum that we're having in our society today, because we don't know what we're seeing. We don't know what to believe. And the other thing is that it is shaking us at our roots, at our foundation. And I am pleased to announce that the Brazil team has made a massive move. And when I say a massive move, is that they're taking it extremely seriously. Not only do they have over 6,000 members who are part of the Telegram team, which is second only to the Iranian team, who has a little bit more than 6,000. I think it's over 100,000 members on the Telegram team. And when you're talking about serious nations are serious nations because they have some issues and they need to take care of these issues. And both of these nations have a serious problem with the coronavirus. And both of these nations have taken it upon themselves to learn not only what causes the virus, but how to eradicate the virus. And as a result of that, finding that there's more to life than what meets the eye. And unfortunately, we're still not there in Canada and the US. We are falling way behind. So I greatly appreciate the support we're getting from the international community. And when I talk about the international community, yes, so we talk about Brazil and Iran, and the rest of the international community is also struggling. So this is not a unique phenomenon here. And the reason that we're struggling, you see, is because there are a lot of people who don't understand the technology. Okay, I buy that. But there are a lot of people who don't want to understand the technology. So we have to build up walls. And so in order for Canada to move ahead, we have to work like beavers to build a wall here in Canada. We can't just let Mexico have their own wall. You know, Canada's got to have a wall as well. So depending on your point of view, are we creating a wall around the US, or are we creating a wall to prevent people from the US and Canada coming in? I don't know. And it really doesn't matter, you see, because what we're dealing with is a universal community. It's a one nation, one planet, one soul. That's the reality. And as a result, we've been able to have an enormous number of new members coming. And so I refer to the powerful Brazilian community. On Monday, we will be having the 6th class in a basic teaching. And Raphael is doing the simultaneous translation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Liliana is doing simultaneous Spanish translation. And it's very interesting because I've been doing seminars in Canada for a long time. And if I get 2 or 3 people of interest, that's major accomplishment. Just in the last week alone, we've had over 1,400 people coming to these sessions. And we've seen close to 600 people live on these sessions. So I must be doing something right. But on the other hand, there is a hunger. There's a tremendous hunger because you see people want to be happy. And so conventional science has said that we need to be old, we need to have pain, and we need to be decrepit. Old and decrepit. Those 2 words do not belong in the same sentence. So we're finding the reason there's such an enthusiasm in the Brazilian community is because many have had the virus and they don't have the virus because they've been using the cups of life as described by the KESHE Foundation. In the learning of the science, they have adopted new techniques. And here's a technique, a very basic technique that each and every one of us can do. Not very sophisticated, not very pretty maybe, funny even. But the fact of the matter is, not only are they feeling better, but they're getting younger in the process. What's wrong with that picture? What is wrong with that picture? Well, let me show you what is wrong with this picture. November the 11th is one of the days that we remember. And the reason we remember is because throughout history, recorded history, even unrecorded history, man has been at war. And, one of the reasons we go to school is to learn how to do things better. And in the school of life, one of the lessons that we learn is about war. And we just can't seem to learn this lesson. I don't understand why, because we claim to be so smart. But, one of the problems with the lockdowns that we're having now is that a lot of people have great trepidation about paying the rent. And the reason for that is because the money doesn't come in fast enough. So our concern really boils down to being a day late or being $1 short. Well, we have a very important day on November the 11th. November is the 11th month, 11th day, and the 11th hour. This is just a tradition. And the reason for the tradition is to show some respect. And as it's raining in my area here today, you can see on Remembrance Day, it was raining. And if you look at the timestamp at the bottom, that's 34 minutes and 37 seconds after the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month. This is a few minutes later. This is the reason they came, to pay respect to the veterans. Really, funerals and commemorations to pay homage and respect to the dead who are no longer here, who are not witness or are not able to benefit by this show. So is the show for them. I want to draw your attention to the gentleman in the back with the gray coat. That gray coat is soaking wet. Yep. Doesn't even have a hat. This is November the 11th, the 11th hour, the 11th minute. That man with the gray coat is there. He's standing there. Soldiers are standing there and other people are standing there. And these people are wet. We pay our homage to the dead, which are represented by this beautiful wreath. Well, you know what? We better pay homage to the people who came. Look at this gentleman in the white trench coat. I mean, in the gray trench coat. That's actually a trench coat. He's soaking wet. It's nice to pay respect to all these people. This is 40 minutes after the hour. 2 minutes later, oh, they're gone. What's that? 8 minutes. Pretty cool. The man in the gray coat is still there. Well, it's time for the soldiers to leave. 44 minutes later, the man in the gray coat is still there. Who is this the benefit for? Who is our meeting today the benefit for? What's going on? We have to have some respect. How can you have respect for your fellow man when we as a humanity don't have respect for our fellow man? If our humanity, if our society doesn't have respect, how are we expected to have respect? We are indignant about these emergency measures. We are confused with the virus testing. We now have a lockdown coming, very severe in certain areas. Economic hardship, what is that? You know, you can't pay your rent, too bad. Social distancing, yeah, that's a good thing to worry about. Face masks, sure. Let's protest about this. You know what? You want to get rid of all this stuff? You want to get rid of all these things that are bothering us? Get rid of the virus. Get rid of the virus. How come? In January, well, we had the virus hit. Great. Our excuse was it came from Chinese bats. I don't know. I'm not paid to figure that one out. In fact, none of us today on this panel are paid to do anything. The only thing we're paid to do is to be volunteers, and volunteers don't get paid. We are here for a reason. So they told us one of the reasons was Chinese bats. Well, now we have a new surge, and basically they've given up because they don't know where it comes from. And we say that this is the second wave. Well, this is the statistic this week in the US and Sweden. This looks more like the third wave. I kind of missed the second wave, and the numbers are incredible and they're astounding. So when we ask if the numbers are incredible, the question is, are they credible? And does it really matter, you see, because statistically, 200 people a day die from cancer in Canada, which means in the US, the average would be one order of magnitude higher, so about 2,000 people per day die from cancer. So that would be, in Canada this year would have been over 60,000 people have died, but we've only had about 10,000 people die. So they're using the virus for the lockdown. That's their excuse. I can buy that, right? And we know that the virus is there because we have what's called a long haul, or these people have lingering symptoms. And this is not just in Canada, but this is everywhere. People have lingering symptoms. But what's really lingering is the fact that we still have this virus. And because we don't have the treatment for it, except that Pfizer this week announced that they might have a vaccine, maybe. But, some people are wondering if, what's wrong with him. The CEO of Pfizer selling 60% of his stock on the same day as the vaccine announcement. And they're wondering why this looks bad. Well, I think the reason it looks bad is because it looks bad. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, you see, because the fact of the matter is we haven't confirmed the number of deaths from the virus. We haven't seen that second wave come yet. So what I'm saying is that the number of tests has increased. We have known all along that the quality of the tests has been suspect. And we know that they can't deal with the virus. In North America, we believe in selling the sizzle, not the steak. When you don't have substance, you have to sell the superficiality. Don't spread the virus, because the virus doesn't discriminate between the poor and the rich. Spread the fear. So there is a virus, and there are people getting hurt. But it's not everywhere, because the number of casualties are increasing, but not as rapidly as they should. Mind you, there's about 250,000 people in the US who are not worried about this anymore. But we shouldn't be worried about this at all, because the fact of the matter is that the KESHE Foundation Spaceship Institute has published in public domain, plasma science and GANS water technology for the detection, cure, and prevention of the COVID family of viruses. So a long time ago, I found out about how to deal with some illnesses like cancer and stuff like that, and I wanted to tell the world. And then I found out two things. One, I found out that the world maybe didn't want to know because they were in a comfort zone. And then we found out also that we weren't allowed. Well, I wasn't sure which one made me more angry, because I spent a lot of time and a lot of money looking for something that would eliminate cancer in my family, and I found it. And that was 30 years ago, and I can't believe that today we're still talking about it. But not only are we talking about cancer, but now we're talking about a virus. And what did we use to eliminate this virus, whether they acknowledge it or not? And Mr. Keshe has published several books on the new plasma science. And we discussed that the universal order of the creation of matters, which is book number 1, has actually 2 titles. And one is the universal order of creation, and number 2 is the creation of matters. And the creation of matters is something that physical science has been preoccupied with. The universal order of creation is something that they've ignored. Well, we can't ignore it anymore, you see, because we are members of the universe. And what happens on our little tiny universe matters. And our tiny little universe in the bottom right-hand corner here is sick, is very, very sick. We have actually 2 sicknesses, one of which is the virus, which is front and center, and the other one is a sickness that we've had for years and years and years. And frankly, the only time we really give attention to it is when someone in our family dies in combat, or some innocent civilian is what they call collateral damage, willful or otherwise, or on November the 11th. which is handy. But where does this all fall into place? Is the universal order of creation at the beginning, or is the universal order of creation from our perspective where we're at? Man is where it's at. Is man where it's at? Well, man has always asked, where do we come from? And how do we get here? So book number 2 describes the structure of light. And the structure of light has to do with how we perceive one of the problems that we have in this society, and that is due to the theory of relativity, which is energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And when we look at this equation, we find that with the speed of light, which is constant, is equal to a ratio of energy to mass, which is also constant. If the energy to mass is constant, well, where does any energy increase come from? And how does mass change? And how do we change? How do we position ourselves with respect to this? So we've come across to certain revelations. And so we're introducing the plasma science, and this is one of the things that I'm keep counting on and keep pushing, is that we're missing something. And I don't want to go into the scientific aspect of the science. I want to go into something that affects all of us, that all of us understand, that the ways and the means does not justify the ways and the means, because you cannot enjoy peace and harmony in your life if you're partaking in actions that involve deceit, lying, cheating, stealing, and murder. And the reason for that is because the ethos of the universe involves morality, compassion, and courage. Compassion means having compassion for your fellow man. It isn't just having compassion on November the 11th, and it's okay to be a little bit late, isn't it? You wonder who has the compassion. Someone who's been standing there for 44 minutes in the rain out of respect for the veterans who have defended our freedoms and our societies and have perished because of their beliefs? Or do we have compassion for the dollar, which throws morality under the bus? We have to have the courage to make that decision, you see, because if we don't make this decision, then our ethics are flawed. And when our ethics are flawed, we become quite lonely in the universe, because the rest of the universe understands this. You see, the sickness is just restricted to us over here. Well, when I say the sickness is restricted to us, it doesn't mean that we don't have an impact. This sickness does go in other areas, but the source of the sickness is here because there's a unique characteristic here, you see, because through the origin of the universe itself, there is a transformation of energy. And this is in book number 3 with the origin of the universe. And so we see that from the creation to the origin of the universe, or, you know, do we have it backwards? Does the origin of the universe give us our ability to create matters? Or, you know, if we go into outer space, you know, is it upside down? And so we really don't know which way is up, and it really doesn't matter because everything is relative. So our being, our soul, is coming and going from somewhere to somewhere. So therefore, there has to be a source. And the question is, what is that link? Brought that subject up hard last week, and we went through a hard session on Thursday at the last Knowledge Seekers workshop, where we had to figure out what is our point of view, and are we going to be limited to an earthbound reality, or are we going to be open up to a spacebound reality? And so on the basis of that particular question, we understand that we have an earthbound strength And that strength, every soldier who has perished in every war found this out too late. Every soldier who is in today's army will find out that their strength is earthbound. And when the armies trample through the earth, and after they're gone, the flowers will grow, okay? Because life wants to live. So there is no army in the world strong enough, you see, because the universal strength comes from the universal soul of man. And the universal soul of man is somehow connected to the universal soul of the body. And this is an earthbound condition. And one of the things that we're trying to understand better is what is the nature of this strength of this energy? And what is it as a plasma? What does it mean? And what do we mean by plasma fields? And so we said, well, plasma fields are a field strength, and plasma can create a field. But plasma also has to have a boundary on that field. And if it didn't, we would really be in bad shape. And we'll discuss that at the end of the presentation. We have discovered that we have two, shall we say, personalities, the soul of man and the physical brain, which houses the soul of man. We've always been looking for where is our soul? And now we know that our soul is within us. So the search is actually within, not without. And this goes back to the modern basics of medicine, going back to the year 1850, when Louis Pasteur said, well, disease comes from without. And Antoine Béchamp says disease comes from within. So our soul of man is within. And so our disease is coming from us. Oh my God, this is not something that we want to hear. Is it because I want a nice little touchy-feely world that's so happy, makes me so happy, and makes my emotion happy? And so we have a warm and fuzzy physical existence, and the soul of our body really enjoys that. But you see, our soul of our body is non-tangible and our physical body is tangible, and there's a connection. And so we see that there's a connection somehow between our physicality and our souls. And as we operate as a unit, as the universal functionary on this planet, the soul of man and the soul of body have to work together. Okay, well, this is good. And our mind is the builder and our physical body is the form artifact. And so there has to be a connection with our mental soul emotion and our physical emotion. Do we have a physical emotion? Well, yes, we do. And you have an idea that you'd like to have a birthday cake. And so you think about a chocolate birthday cake, how nice that would be. And then when you finally get that birthday cake, if you do get that birthday cake, and you taste it, that makes you feel good. And that's the difference. And so these two work together, and that gives you a connection. And so we operate together, and we are a bagraph. By definition, a magrav is a balance of a magnetical gravitational field. And I like to use the words from the plasma science to describe this. And many of you have sat through this before, but it's worth repeating because people are going to ask you, and it's going to be thousands and thousands of people are going to be asking you. And it's about time we started talking in this way. So we are magravs and we are balanced. And how do we know we are balanced? Well, we're going to discuss that in a few seconds because you see, we are balanced and we exist as a magrav between a here and a there. And so one of the heres is the soul of the earth, and one of the theres is the soul of inspiration. And why do we refer to these souls? is because what is the non-tangible essence of what we are that connects to our Magrav condition, and that is the soul of man and the soul of the body working together. And so we become the seed of that thought. And so our soul of inspiration is connected to our seed, and our seed is connected to the soul of this earth. Okay, well, that works. And the soul of the earth is connected back to us. Okay, well, that works. And the soul of inspiration is balancing out our field. Okay, well, that works. And then our Magrav condition, which is feeding the seed, and we know that it's feeding the seed because the seed grows. And what is different about a seed that is growing from a baby that grows into an adult? It's the same thing. So growth is an inspiration and a manifestation of the directions coming from our souls. And so we become a plasmatic being as a result of that. And this is a precious thing. And we don't have respect for that. We don't even have respect for that when they're dead sometimes. So what has now happened is that we have a second sickness that's come here, as if we need another one. And it operates under plasma basis, and that is the coronavirus. And what it has done, it has encapsulated our essence and deprived us of our connectivity to the rest. So it has interrupted this connection. And the virus is working very, very well because it understands magnetical gravitational reactions, and it too has a seed. And that seed is overtaking our essence. And the reason for that is because the coronavirus is not a physical entity. It is a field strength. It is an energy pack. It operates as a parasite. It does not have tangibility. So it depends on a surrogate tangibility, and we are it. And the reason we are it is because of the fear factor. So we are gripped in a worldwide state of fear, because to make sure that this fear is perpetrated somehow, some way, for some reason, and we don't seem to be upset enough about it, we have a second, maybe a third wave coming. And the last I checked, we don't have a Chinese bat problem here in Canada. Some of you in other countries can tell me if you have a Chinese bat problem over there. I've never heard of one here, but we don't have the virus necessarily everywhere, but we sure do have the fear, because that fear spreads very, very rapidly. And as such, it creates a condition. And this is debilitating. Well, we don't have to worry about fear. Why do we need to have this fear? How many people are going to sleep tonight absolutely terrified? And you don't think this is real? I laugh when I go to the supermarket. People walk around me 2 meters apart. That's what we are. We're socially distanced. You know, oh, no, there's no virus. Oh, no, it's a scam. And meanwhile, they walk around you like good puppies. And you say, well, why are you staying away from me if there's no virus? Because they can't lie to themselves. They're full of fear. And this fear is contagious. And they're going to sleep with this fear. With the introduction of the first cup and the second cup and the eradication of the virus in a matter of a few days, none of us on this panel need to have this fear. We can get back to our understanding on how we are connected. And what we have to have faith in is our soul of inspiration. But we have a sickness on this planet which is infecting our bodies. It's affecting the soul of our body, it's infecting the emotion of our body, and it's affecting our physical bodies. And this is where we're having a problem. So now we have to have an understanding of what's going on. So we see that our soul of man is operating actually like a Maghreb condition. And the benefit of the first cup and the second cup, we are seeing emotionally and physically is helping us through the bringing of peace and harmony. Oh, I thought it was just to get rid of the virus. Well, you know, it's collateral damage. Peace and harmony is collateral damage. The primary thing, of course, is that we want to have emotional balance and physical balance in the soul of our body. And so this was the original intent of the first cup and the second cup. And then we found that when we put these two together, we got the cup of man. Well, okay, so what's going on here? So let's do an emotion summary here. So the soul of the man has an emotion, and that's the emotion of man. And the soul of physicality has an emotion, and that's the emotion of physicality. So what is the cup of man doing? Well, the cup of man also has an emotion, because the emotion of presence is the combination of the emotion of man and the emotion of physicality. Well, you know, the sun has a soul. So if we have a soul and we have an emotion, so the sun should have a soul and an emotion. And that sun is doing a really, really good job because it shines every day, except when it's raining. But we know behind the clouds and behind the rain, it is sunny and it is shining. And that is the emotion of the sun. And it is benevolent. And the soul of the earth, it must also have an emotion. And the soul of the earth is definitely welcoming. I mean, we came here, didn't we? And we are here. But I don't think we treat the earth kindly enough. Is this the way when you are a guest somewhere? Is this what you do when you are a guest in someone's house? You go in and trash the place? I don't know. I guess it all depends on your point of view. You see, the problem that we're having here is that we want to get back to nature. Well, hello, we are nature. You can't get back to yourself. This is the thing we have to flip around in our point of view. We are nature. How do we know that? We were born. Where were we born? Here. How did we get here? I'm asking too many questions. How about some answers? So physical science is not, well, it's not answering these questions, you see, because physical science by definition is the verification and validation by man-made means. Well, what has science verified? Well, clearly, the speed of light and the limitation of the speed of light is a lie. The periodic table of elements, which shows the mass of the various elements and the mass of the neutron, not all neutrons are the same. It's just like saying the periodic table of elements of all the people on this planet are humans. Well, are humans all the same? No. Are neutrons all the same? No, more lies. And what happens to our soul? What happens to all those soldiers who died? What happens when their soul of physicality dies? So is that the soul of mortality? Or is that the soul of immortality? It's more lies. And how did they feed us these lies? Because they fed us physically through the 3 R's. The knowledge has been disseminated to us through the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And more lies have been taught. This is the legacy of the physical science. It's about time we call them out, you see, because here's what we know. We had the virus start in January. There are people paid to take care of it. We have the virus here in November, and the people who are paid to take care of that are still taking care of that, or shall we say, not taking care of it, okay? Because they didn't take care of it in January, and they're still here. So that becomes the question, why are they still here? And why are they not taking care of it? I don't know what the answer is to that. All I know is that we have the answer. Because you see, the thing about it, we are understanding our soul and our presence and what life is all about. And so our dilemma here has to deal with consciousness. And what life is doing is bringing our unconscious into the consciousness. And our soul has a dimension. And right now, that dimension is field focused. And that focus is in the consciousness. What we need to figure out is that there is actually an unconsciousness. And that is something that we have to have trust in. Well, how can we have trust when all we understand is our earthbound state? So the soul of man in its first dimension of consciousness is an earthbound state. That is our connection of the soul to this planet. If our connection to the soul of this planet is our source of inspiration, then our source of inspiration is the second dimension of unconsciousness. And that is the plasma state. Our soul of present is connected to the soul of creation. That is the universal state. These are things we don't understand right now. Do we understand that when we have magnets, as we do in the top picture here, this is a representation of circular magnets. Do we understand that these magnets repel each other? Do we understand that they attract to each other? There are certain criteria which causes this, and we can't see them. Well, in the plasma science, something happens with these fields that we can't see. But there's a difference between the plasma science and the physical science. In the physical science, because it's a low energy state, when we remove the magnets, we also remove the fields. In the plasma state, when we remove the core, the field remains. How do we know this? Sometimes the lack of evidence is the evidence. So if I'm looking at a cup of GANS on the left-hand side, I'm looking at it from the top down. I see the GANS at the bottom of the glass, and I see that it's starting to form a rotating field. And you can see by the different colorations of the GANS that there is a depth that is happening. So I'm not doing that, who's doing that? I don't understand how this is happening. And then you look at the GANS on the right-hand side and say, well, wait a second, there's a hole in the middle. Well, what's inside the hole? Well, you say nothing is inside the hole. Well, how can nothing be something? Nothing is nothing. So in science, nothing cannot be nothing. Something is always something. So we don't understand what's in there. Hello, there is something in there, okay? Because I can see it, and seeing is believing. So what does that mean? If I have a brain and I give you my knowledge, am I going to have a hole in my brain? Am I going to be less knowledgeable? Unless I give you my soul, but that's my soul, not your soul. That's my property, not yours. My soul is my essence, your soul is your essence, and that is your universal right. And if you want to stay locked up in your little cage, well, that's fine. The plasma science is saying that you can spread that knowledge out. So when we look at what we're saying with respect to magnetical, gravitational, and soul relationships, and we look at the cup of life, we say, okay, well, energy is always in motion. There's a magnetical giving and there's a gravitational taking. And if the giving is to the taking within the cup, then it's like a dog chasing its tail. How can the energy flow? All you're doing is creating a binding. So when we look at the cups of life, we have to say, how is this working? And so we see, when we look at the nano-coated wire in the middle, the zinc plate on the left, the copper coil on the right, we find that there are plasmatic fields interacting. And when we find plasmatic fields interacting, because these are operating at a higher energy level, they still operate by the same rules. So these higher plasmatic fields are also interacting and they're creating another energy. What am I talking about? First of all, in the cup of life, there are two ganses being formed. Once you have these two ganses, you can create a third. So you can start to see that there's a complexity happening. When there's a complexity happening, it increases the stability. So these cups of life are now in the process of creating a mag-grav condition. And so we see one is a zinc gans, one is a copper gans, and we get the two together and we know what happens in that case. We get CO2 gans. These are the building blocks of life. And through the building blocks of life, we get water, which is one of the universal solvents on this planet. And we also get amino acid, which is taking into account our emotional aspect, our physical aspect, and our soul aspect, and the interactions of all of it. And so we find that the amino acids have a certain kind of affinity, and it has to do with certain elements of the periodic table of elements. Nitrogen is a facilitator. Over 80% of our environment is nitrogen. Hydrogen is a magnetical connector. Oxygen is a gravitational connector. Carbon is the connector. Carbon is the connector. So we understand that between the magnetical and the gravitational relationship, which constitutes a mag-grav condition, there has to be a connector. We are on this planet as an organic being. The definition of an organic being is carbon-based. Our Earth is inorganic. The definition of inorganic is silicon-based. So if we didn't have this carbon connection, we would be more like the Earth. Well, we are on the Earth. And because oil and water don't mix, thank God, because that way we can maintain our magnetical gravitational relationship, or we as a body can be a mag-grav condition. And you know that we are, when we want to go back to nature, people want to go back to the Earth. Really? No, we are carbon-based. The Earth is inorganic. So if you have a heart, do you want to have a hard heart? Do you want your heart to turn into stone? Really? Well, the coronavirus is doing that. Doesn't seem to have any problem with that. So we seem to have a problem with understanding who we are, what we're doing, and where we're going. So now we have to have some kind of connection. And this is done through emotion. knowing by connection. This is the new education. Well, I say it's a new education, it's not, it's an old education. You can learn through, you maybe can't read, you maybe can't write, and maybe you can't add. But one thing you do know is you do know, you know, for example, a kitten loses its mom. How is that kitten going to learn the ways of an adult cat? It doesn't go to school, the kind of school that we have. It knows by connection because the kitten follows the same rules. It has a soul of, let's say, kitten, and it has a soul of physicality. And that is connected to the emotion of the soul and the emotion of the physicality. So now we understand that the relationship of the soul of the sun and the soul of the earth, there is a connection. And we know that we want to go back to nature. Hello, we are nature. The cup of man is the cup of presence. We are here, present in the consciousness. Where did we come from? This is the connection, the emotion of knowledge, the emotion of knowing. This was the lesson on Thursday. What is the difference between the construct of the emotion of man and the emotion of physicality, the emotion of presence and the emotion of knowing? Do you think it has anything to do with the construct of the amino acid? So, why are we serving ourselves at the expense of others? The lowest energy level. We like to play poker. Okay, entertain yourself. Great, happy to do that. Life and death matters are not entertainment. This is not fun. This is not entertainment. This is not a ceremony to cherish. Life on this planet is what we need to cherish. So we have to understand, and we have to have the courage to understand. And then we have to have the courage to enhance others, because the rules of poker in outer space is that there are no poker games in outer space. You will be playing alone, okay? Because you cannot lie, cheat, steal, and kill in outer space the way you can on this planet. The energy is all around. The method of how this energy is applied is all around. We say we want to get back to nature, but we don't even see how nature operates. There it is, a magnetical gravitational relationship with energy streaming out of the core. Isn't it wonderful? So now we understand that nuclear arms are obsolete. And now we can say that. Why? Because we have to say it. We have come to the point now where enough is enough. Why do we continue after all these years to continue doing the same thing and getting the same lousy results? That is by definition insanity. And we're supposed to be knowledgeable? Are you serious? Well, what's happened in the last 130 years? The lights came on in 1893 and water has gone under the bridge. Nothing much has really changed. We're still having trouble coming to grips. Well, now we are coming to a crisis point because The technology has been given in public domain. We have in Austria a material enhancement unit and a body enhancement unit. And these are the tangible manifestations that represent soul enhancement. Soul enhancement is non-tangible. We now have a connection between the non-tangible and the tangible. And we have a connection between the source and the earth. And we are back to nature. We are the connectors. We are the messengers of peace. And we're trying to bring peace and harmony to this planet. Why? Because we come in friendship. That's the way the universe works. Thank you for listening to this. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Alex, for your excellent presentation. It seems like I've heard it before, but as I hear it again, different areas open up, and I'm sure it's the same for everyone. I'd like to open it up if anyone would like to pose a question. I have a couple, but let's open it up for the others. All righty. My question is, I read an article that Elon Musk, who's very familiar with Mr. Keshe and the KESHE Foundation and the KESHE technology, he had 4 tests in one day. 2 were positive and 2 were negative by the same nurse and the same equipment. He's assuming that the testing is faulty. Would you like to comment on that?
Are you asking me, Mark?
Yes.
Well, if, you know, you go to your mechanic and he tests your car and he's, you know, you're saying ignition problems, and he runs the test 4 times in one day and comes back, oh, 2 times it's working and 2 times it's not working. Or is it the thing? Well, I have a strong opinion on that. And we have, they have never corroborated whether or not the testing is valid. And really, because we know that there's a black market for positive tests, and we know that there's a market for negative and positive tests. And a really strange thing to do, to be actually profiting and prospering at misery of others. And this is the kind of problem that we're having on this planet. So your discussion of whether the tests are real or not real is irrelevant. The corona virus, the plasma science, and the cups of life, cups of life, you see, because so many people.
You're breaking up badly.
Are going to bed.
Yes, Alex, your voice is
I'm going to have to
choppy.
reboot, Mark.
Okay, we'll wait for you to come back in. Now, another question I had, and I think Stephen.
Didn't we want to talk about that continue to talk about that, the test?
Okay, go ahead.
So actually on the side of the test, when you get it from the manufacturer, says does not detect coronavirus. And in the literature from the manufacturers of the test, it says that it doesn't find an infection, and it does not find, what it finds does not tell you whether you're sick either. So the stipulations are already in the documentation from the manufacturer on the packaging and with the data that is supplied from the manufacturers of the test. So it's interesting that Elon Musk would come out and confirm what other scientific papers did early on with regard to this. And the RT-PCR test has been around for about 40 years. And so Dr. Fauci knows about this. They all know that this is not the gold standard of a test. It's what they call a surrogate test. And so it can be manipulated to always give you a negative result, or it can be manipulated to always give you a positive result. And that's what's most concerning for most people, because we're trying to eliminate the fear and crisis. And if you're relying on something that can be manipulated, then that doesn't help the people with regard to this crisis. Because you have to imagine what's being done to people's lives if you have no symptoms and you take a test and it comes back positive. Well, the consequences of what that does to the people's psyche is very detrimental. You know, they stop working, they go and isolate themselves, and in this whole period of time, they're waiting for this symptom onset to happen. And if it doesn't, you know, then they go back and get another test and it says now you're negative, and that it's a terrible way to be treating people. It's almost torturous to be using something that wasn't designed to determine of infection or what they find will make you sick, and to be using it in that way. It's just sad.
And Stephen, didn't you bring up the point a while ago about a 99.9% survival rate? Why would you need to vaccinate if there's such a high survival rate?
Well,
I think we know the answer, but
see,
what sense would that make?
Well, it goes back to why you need a vaccine in the first place. If they haven't isolated the virus, and Mr. Keshe, we talked about this, and he said because it's only held in level 4 biohazard laboratories, and then it questions, well, how did they create a vaccine for something that they have no live virus to test for? And so in a way, you can say that everything is inferred. And so with a 99% survival rate, that means that the people that have been exposed have already built an immunity to it. And so to take a vaccination is only adding a slightly more immunity to. So is it worth the risk without knowing what's contained within the vaccine? And so that's why we've asked for the MSDS or samples to test to verify what they're putting in it, because some of the virologists or the immunologists have said that they use liver cells from, in the past they've used green monkey liver cells, or they've used canine liver cells, and these things by nature have viruses in them. And so when these things are injected into the body, and then the natural we get our seasonal H1N1 viruses that come back. When that person is exposed to that virus, we get what's called a cytokine storm, where your immune system is driven into overdrive. It's almost like, in a way, where that's why the KESHE technology is so beneficial, is that it more or less, it depletes the energy of whatever is going to cause that immune system to go into an overreaction, if that helps. Did I answer your question?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, you certainly did, because the whole purpose is to promote this fear. The other point that I would like to say is that, as I mentioned, they, rather than spreading the virus everywhere, which would endanger the entire population, they spread it in certain areas, because all you need to do is to have some kind of verification and validation of a malady, and then you spread the fear. And it's the spreading of the fear which activates the lockdown, and the lockdown, to undo the lockdown, activates the requirement for are you here? Yeah, activates the requirement for the vaccine. My question becomes, what is the difference between a vaccine and a bullet? Both of them violate the magnetical boundary of the physical body. So why do we need to do that? With the cups of life, we can enhance the physical body without violating the physical body. Simply, as Stephen said, depleting the energy of the virus. And, guess what happens? Old Brazilian couple becomes happier. Is it restricted to that? I bet you dollars to donuts that everybody in this room knows that there are people out there who they have witnesses and testimonials of people who have benefited in other areas. You see, the thing about it is that when we're looking at the physical benefit in our bodies, we try and pick and choose what we want to be healed about. But you see, the universe is a benevolent place and gives us all the energy that we need, as much as we need, and where we need it, when we need it, in a timely fashion. And we don't get to decide what energy we take. We take all the energy that our soul has determined. And our soul has determined that in an unconscious level through the knowledge obtained through the knowledge of connection. We are not skilled enough to make these decisions. And if you think you are, try for a moment controlling each and every one of the 70 trillion cells in your body. And, within a matter of less than a minute, you'll be exhausted, okay? Because we do not have the physical capability of controlling that. So there has to be some kind of method of communicating, and there has to be some kind of organization. And that organization is coming from a higher energy strength and a higher field strength. So the blessing, as Mr. Keshe says, with respect to the coronavirus, is that not only have we gotten rid of the coronavirus itself, and I'm talking about those knowledge seekers, and we put that in public domain so that everybody has it, but the flu, the scientists, and I didn't bring it up earlier, the scientists today don't know where the regular flu is, the H1N1 flu. It seems to have disappeared. And down the road from me, they're giving the flu vaccines out for free. Are you kidding? Have you ever heard anything so ridiculous in your life? A pharmacy giving a flu vaccine for free? That's unheard of, because the whole medical community is based on the dollar. So, maybe it's not free. Maybe it's free to us, and then maybe someone is paying for someone unseen is draining the money. And this is what it's all about. It's all about the money. Well, the money is a man-made thing, you see. So what we're looking at is the new science bringing in a new way of living on this planet. And so this is the thing that is pushing us fast forward now to the point where we have to say, first of all, the physical science has let us down. It has let us down. Well, it's let me down personally 30 years ago, and it's done it again today, 30 years later, okay? I don't need to be proven twice. I was already proven once. So that's a fail. Thank you very much. Go to the back of the class. The new science has come, and we are seeing success, okay? Success is the opposite of fail. Thank you very much. It's 180 degrees opposite, so that's what we have to do with our understanding of how our soul is working on this planet. It's not from the bottom up, it's from the top down, because we are nature.
I've heard a doctor speak and say that the coronavirus has been with man for thousands of years, or maybe even longer. Is the influenza, what they call influenza, is that in the coronavirus family? Does anyone know?
There's a key difference. There's a key difference that Mr. Keshe has mentioned, and that is that the coronavirus is a double-stranded virus. So we really haven't seen anything like that. But what I would like to point out is that one of the things that scientists have mentioned is that as the virus is mutating and going from symptomatic to asymptomatic conditions, we are seeing that you can get hit with a strain, you can get hit with multiple strains, and each of these strains can come with repetitions. And if you get repetitions of the same strains, that increases the strength. So we're finding that the strength of the virus that hit us in January has actually dissipated and mutated into another strain. Since we haven't changed the test, so that means, wait a second, that means we have the same strain that we had back in January. Well, that strain has dissipated, it has mutated, it has lost its viral load. That's what they call it, that viral load. So anyone who is suffering from this viral load must have been hit from a repetition. Sorry to say.
Had her microphone open earlier. Did you have a question you'd like to put forth?
What I was had read was that the number of times the results are multiplied has something to do with whether it reaches the cutoff as being corona or not corona. So basically, what in that different labs and different tests use different numbers of multiplying or not multiplying, multiplying the results, and therefore you get different results. And also, anytime you want to create fear, you just multiply it a couple more times and you have a huge infection. And when they talk about on the radio, on the news, they talk about infection. They don't talk about somebody actually having symptoms, but I think that what they consider a positive test is what they consider an infection. And so they count all of those. And in the meantime, they can manipulate the number of times of multiplying the readings. And so it's totally subject to manipulation and therefore to use for political purposes. That's my take on the whole thing.
I agree with you 100%.
Yes, to be more specific, when they swab you, they find a molecule of material. And the RT-PCR test is a process where they apply a material to that biological sample, and it creates a piece of matter, so to speak. And so then it's a recombinant process where a cycle doubles it. So they take a piece and they put it through one cycle, and it creates two pieces. Someone's microphone's open. And so that's why in Taiwan, they have set it basically to 23 cycles. That's the agreed to number of cycles that they use for this process. But as I mentioned, if you set it at, let's say, 20 cycles, 99.9% of the time it would always go negative, which merely means nothing. But if you set it at, say, 35 cycles, it would always go positive. But in the end, neither one of them, of the results, tell you if what they found will make you sick and if what they found is a virus. And anything everything is inferred from the results. So like a blood glucose that diabetics use to tell if they have a low blood sugar, that's a gold standard test. That's what their lives depend on that test being accurate. This is not a test. It's a manufacturing process. But what it finds is very specific, but it doesn't identify a virus, and it doesn't identify whether what they find will make you sick. And that's what the inventor has said, the Nobel laureate Carrie Mullis, of the one that created this test. And the Germans, they have pushed this narrative that it is a test, but when it came down to asking them, does this find the virus? The answer was no. And so that's kind of the whole thing of where we're at with regard to considering this a test. And the new things that have come out, these quick tests, someone has said it's like, would you use a pregnancy test to determine if you're a diabetic? It's kind of, that's how silly these tests have become. Thank you.
Stephen, you seem to have a lot of knowledge about this. And I was reading, and I don't know if it was Elon Musk or someone else, where they said they swabbed one nostril and it came positive, and they swabbed the other nostril on the other side and it came back negative. Could that be possible?
Absolutely, because what they didn't tell you is how many cycles they used. See, that's the missing component of what actually hit. But
So,
very on,
in other
very
words,
on.
if you put a spider under a magnifying glass, he looks like a big monster. Something
In a
like
way,
that.
and very on, there's scientific papers that I could add to the thing that showed that there was a study done in China where they tested the patients almost every single day, and they went from positive to negative to positive. Some people tested positive 5 times, but they had no symptoms. And so those papers already are out there and exist, and the experts know about all this stuff. But for whatever reason, they're keeping silent about it, because, as you said, because that's when they went and they messed with what a case means. A case used to mean someone that was actively seeking treatment for symptoms. They created this thing called the asymptomatic infection, which is a case. And so any positive case from that false positive result means now that you're an infection, as opposed to what a case used to mean, where you're actually sick and being treated by a doctor. And it kind of goes to the money incentive that the United States and the Gates Foundation, all these, they're incentivizing the testing to be positive. And there's been big money payouts in this whole regard to that. In the United States, it's called the CARES Act. Every positive test, depending on the state, that is recorded by the hospital or the facility, they get a specific payment reimbursement. And if they do absolutely no treatment of any type, then it's pure profit. So that's why they're pushing testing. They want millions and millions of tests done. And even with any test, there's still a percentage of false positives. So if they did 1 million tests and there's an ideal 1% false positive, that would still be 100,000 or 100,000 false positives, and that equates to about as many tests as we're seeing being reported positive. They're not telling us how many tests, and they don't tell us how many people recovered. It's really gotten very bad, and I don't want to rant on too much about it, because I know people are suffering and people are dying, and so we kind of want to get back to what this meeting is all about, is helping people in crisis, reducing the amount of fear, getting everybody to calm down, using the cups of life and the technology to help you help yourself. Thank you.
Now you're cooking with gas. See, the thing is that we are all volunteers here, and none of us, with the exception of a couple, have the qualifications to discuss this. But on the basis of the knowledge that we have, we have filled the argument that they have put forward with more holes than you see in Swiss cheese. So the thing is that their argument is flawed. And the question becomes, why do they continue to push this flawed argument? Because they're supposed to be knowledgeable. And the confounding thing here is, you see, that if you're part of the problem and you feel that you're immune to the problem, then you're just not, being coherent here, because the next level of person who will be sacrificed in this thing could be you. This is the confounding thing. For instance, in Canada here, we have what we call snowbirds. They are adamant. They want to go to Florida, where the warm climate is, okay? Because they've survived the virus here in Canada, so they figure they can survive the virus in the US. really, what are you, Superman or something? You don't have the protection. You don't understand what the virus is. So, you're just basically living in denial because you want it your way. Well, you will get it that your way. There's no problem with that. The thing is that we now have to move forward with the new technology. We have the capability, we have the knowledge, we can see that they have failed, and so the new knowledge is coming forward. This is radically going to change our life. We have already been confronted with radically changing our life. As the man said this week, he was interviewed, he owned a restaurant. He says, "What do you think about the future now that's going to happen with the restaurant business?" And rightly so. The restaurant business is dead. The restaurant business is dead. So now, how are these people going to adapt? What about the hospitality industry? How are they going to adapt? Well, history has shown that mankind is adaptable, and this is what we need to do. So we're going to lose a lot of jobs. We're going to lose a lot of comfort that we have, and it's not the plasma science that's doing it. It's the conventional science that's doing it. They did this with various illnesses. AIDS comes to mind predominantly. Those of you who aren't old enough to remember back in 1983 what happened with the AIDS thing, and it's rearing its ugly head again. But do we remember the SARS thing? I do. And the same modus operandi. This is what detectives call an MO, the modus operandi. How is the criminal act being conducted? So we don't need to argue with that. You know why? Because this is not entertainment. The whole objective of having the luxury of looking at history and saying, oh, this is what happened at the war, or this is what happened at such and such a time. Well, great. You want to sit over coffee and discuss that? That's fine. People are living and dying with this knowledge today. And this is being suppressed for some reason. Well, we have taken the liberty of putting it in public domain because right now we have the opportunity to do that. And you cannot undo that. All you can do is show your colors, and everybody all over the place is showing their colors. The time for lying is over. Enough with the lying. It's not funny anymore. We have to
Go ahead.
we have to take the initiative, and that comes not only from us as knowledge seekers, but also from the Universal Council and the entire community. And we have to understand that when we're talking about our entire community, we're talking about all the souls on this planet. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm not on any of the social medias, but it appears it's being harder and harder to discuss anything about an election or a virus or anything like that. And I was reading another article where someone wanted to share let's say a negative article on the virus, and even the phone company wouldn't allow the text to be delivered, even though it said the text was delivered. And along with that, Mr. Keshe has even been told he's been communicated with about what he should say and where he should say it and who he should meet with and so on. So this is very off the wall sort of behavior where you can't freely
Mark,
have an open discussion.
Yeah, Mark, if you remember last week, I asked Mr. Keshe about if we could introduce a technology because the gatekeepers had clamped down so much on communication, kind of like harkens back to his experience with the Wikipedia, as they prevent any type of, so the censorship of the digital space is being done more and more. So that was the reason I brought that up. What can we develop to communicate our peaceful intentions and to have discussions about, basically base transparency, like with regard to tests, so that people have the knowledge to make their own decisions. And that's why I had asked about that. What can we do to push a platform of communication and maybe it's through the Universal Council or the Earth Council, where they will recreate a platform where, you know, nothing is censored, but how, you know, the world, how is it going to spread across the web if they control the web in a way? If you recall me asking Mr. Keshe that, I don't think he went into that part, because he went on to about the level of the virus and where it was being contained.
Well, I notice Mr. Keshe has his microphone open. Perhaps he'd like to come in here.
And just real quick about the beautiful snowbirds. Yes, Florida is open. They have taken away the mandates for the masks and social distancing. So Florida is kind of our test bed that they are open for business. They got rid of all their stuff. And another state, South Dakota, doesn't have that kind of issue either, but Florida is open. So we wish to see as many snowbirds that want to come to Florida. Please come if you can. Thank you.
Mr. Keshe, your microphone appears to be open. Would you like to come in here, or I'll mute it for you? Okay, he just closed his microphone, so let's continue on. Any other questions from anyone? I know we're all wanting. Yes.
Can
go ahead,
I
Mr.
just
Keshe.
come in? Sorry. There is something I think a lot of people are overlooking, or something we have to consider, is that when you look at the way the whole structure of this medicine has come in, or vaccination, and the principal people behind it, it's very, very clear, and it has been made much more clearer in past 7 days, especially in Europe. And that is fundamentally the people behind this injections and the rest, knowing that even the test done in Africa, 10 out of 10 have died, children below 7. Knowing that 10 out of 10 over age of 65, 70 have died in receiving the injection in less than 24 hours, is very, very clear now that does not matter what do, is you have to look at the overall span of the talks and the ways which has been going on, is that it's population reduction program. And it's very, very clear, especially in Europe. Governments are going bankrupt under the pressure of pensions. The monies which are spent and cannot be kept to be paid, and the life expectancy into 90s and 100s is literally bankrupting the nations. And if you listen into rhetorics, and what is coming is that they want to immunize elderly and young, and those who are vulnerable. So you will see a clear pattern that population reduction is on the agenda. And they have asked to cover 60% of their population, not 100% coverage. We come to understand that the way it's set up is clearly one-way traffic. And what is emerging in the background, which we are looking at, is if you're 65 plus and you want to live, cost of living is $50,000, for example, a year. You pay, you stay. So if you're 70 years old and millionaire, you can pay your way. If you're 65 years and don't have the funds, and you could be asking for a hip operation, you go accidentally. This was the whole criterion behind the injection: population control. And I think a lot of you are missing this point. Population control, the youngsters cut off, it means less population in the future. The end bracket, who are now becoming expenses and we spend all the pension monies, is out of the question. The nations become zero assets, debts. And again, if we look, is a European war, which looks to be the whole world involved. It's European and Americans, Mexicans and Brazilians and Africans and Indians have no game in this to play. And we will see that all the way I see it, people have missed or they're taking their eyes off the ball. The whole charter of Bill Gates was population reduction, and he has convinced the European leaders, which have pension policies beyond they can cover, to go for it. And if you see in the European nations, they say lockdown and then elderly and young to be injected first. We see they want to do health people too, doctors and nurses. In reducing their numbers allows a huge reduction in health commission because we don't need them anymore, as we got rid of the elderly altogether. It's a well-planned oversight, and everybody is arguing about the injections and the pin. They're all combination of 3 or 4 things, but majority of it is reduction, and that's why all the European American governments have come with it. We don't have pension in Africa. We don't have pension in India. European nations are bending, breaking up, looking after the elderly and vulnerable.
Is this,
And if
Mr. Keshe, the same rhetoric that came out of Europe in the late 30s and 40s about eliminating the useless eaters under a different cover?
This is what we see, and this is what we are observing, and it's a total agenda. Those over 65 with wealth will stay. When you cannot pay your social cover, you go. It is euthanasia in a mass order. And this is the belief of Bill Gates. The population of the world has to be reduced by 50%. We do the Europeans, then we go for the others. If you listen to American president, he tells you how many trillion he's paid to the company to produce the vaccination. Why didn't the government produce this vaccination for the flu and others for past decades? Suddenly now they have it. Don't forget, by order of magnitude, 1.5 trillion gives the president 150 billion cash in his bank. 4 years of presidency paid for. I think you have to, so much thinking what the injection does, why is positive, it's all figured up, made up. It's just, especially in European nations, is to cover the pension. Pensions cannot be paid. We are aware of this for decades now. People were expected to die by 65. Now they're in 80s and 90s and they're still walking, and hip replacement today, another thingy tomorrow. Pension is not covering. The street lamps are mortgaged, the statues are leased, pavement stones have been pulled out and sold, but pensions cannot be covered. And I think the merger of the rhetoric of the government keeps us clearly. The elderly, vulnerable, and children. If you get rid of 10% of the children by accident, less population in the future to feed and take through. Secondly, the weakest one will die anyway by the injection. We've seen that in Africa. Every single child received the injection within 24 hours has died. But I have one big question. Who's going to give the injection to Mr. Gates and his family? Can we witness it?
Or Prince Philip and his family, as he said publicly, if there's such a thing as reincarnation, I'd like to come back as a deadly virus to control human population growth. Maybe that family should line up.
And somebody has to monitor that.
It's a way we have to look. We can discuss the test, the stat, but the bottom line is what we see. We can't take the eye off the ball, as I said. It's primarily population control and it's heading that way. Then you have to understand you don't need to provide social security, you don't need to provide everything else. You work, doesn't matter what you work, you want to stay alive. It's 30,000 a year. It's your way to find out. Government doesn't need to clean up anymore. We pay to stay alive. By installments, by prostitution, by whatever you pay. And this is the mechanism that the government does not look. This came out very clearly. If you look at in 1980s, we've seen this in a different shape or form. We saw it with Mrs. Thatcher. Mrs. Thatcher sold every council house at a discounted rate. People were happy that they bought a discounted house. But when the Monday morning after they received the deed of the house, called the council, can I have the repair of the roof? They said, we are not the owners anymore. You are, you pay. They sent them a tax bill. They said from now on, your owners up to now taxes were paid by the government. And this is the totality of it. In simplifying, to stay alive, you have a children, you have to pay so much for each child to stay alive. Unless you choose the space. And this is bottom line of it. And that's what Gates said from the beginning, reducing population by half. Europe is as good as anywhere else because he gets paid. You got to realize he doesn't like to be second best. And there's somebody else who's become more millionaire than him. So he wants to catch up.
So the 20-kilometer or farther proposal you've made?
They have no control. I was talking to Knowledge Seeker recently. And I said, do the people in the space lab pay for their shopping, pay their food, they go shopping? No. If you, as I said, if it comes push to the shove that people don't have a food, as I released the cup of life, I'll release the cup of food. And if it comes that people don't have energy to stay warm, I'll release the cup of heat. It's very simple. The thing is, if you have the energy in your body, you don't feel hungry, you don't need food. And if your body stays warm, doesn't matter if the table or the chair or the carpet is cold. During the old time, had a fireplace in one corner of the room. And as long as you sat in front of it and you were warm, doesn't matter if the furniture in the back of the room in the other room were frozen. This is a picture which we see it, and at the same time control. Those who are against the government will be data posted, accidentally die. The promise to the Western world leaders has been reduction in pension, expenses of the nation, and population control. That's why they are following like a sheep. You can come up with any other excuses you want. You got to calculate each, let's say, pension person costs, let's say, about 20,000 a year. You take 1 million or 10 million out of the equation. You can see how the paper balance changes. You have people who have a heart condition and any other diseases, another 1 million to 10 million in Europe. You cut off 25 million people out of the population. That's about 7% of the population. And then you see the balance changes. And that 25 million doesn't need nurses and doctors. These are expensive lots. That's why they give injections to the doctors and nurses and professionals. They can go too. It's well calculated.
Thank you for the knowledge you carry and your willingness to share that knowledge.
It's just knowledge, it's understanding the work. Listening to the details and positioning things in position. And we see it. The new technologies which we will release, which is getting completely developed, will change all these things. And different groups of KESHE Foundation around the world are achieving what is said to be achieved. We hear from different groups, we see different conditions, we see flight system, everything is on the table.
Mr. Keshe, I understand what you said, and I understand all of this, and what's coming. My question is about the linchpin. What is the status of the end of kingship?
What do you mean by that?
Well, the king creates the fiat that controls the countries. Where are we with regard to leveling the playing field where there's no more kingships?
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so with regard to what we have here is the Georgia Guidestones. It's the eugenics that was Bill Gates's father's was part of. And the way that a country can be controlled is through the money supply. And I believe in the past, you've kind of talked about how the Belgians control the money supply in a way for the United States, like the Federal Reserve, because we don't know who owns those private banks that control the treasuries of all our countries. So if the power is within the kingships to control the fiat money supplies that make the debt and all these things possible, the control, you had said that your technology levels the playing field. How much closer are we to where that would be level, where the kingship and the fiat and the control is no longer among that elite group?
You see, I have caused a massive problem, not only for those who are in kingship. I have a massive problem for those who are in soulship too, or called religious groups. And we see the revolt will come from inside, from people. And most of the kings live around Europe at the moment. You don't have that many kings outside Europe, very few. A couple in Middle East, which were inserted by the Europeans. We hardly have any kingship in Middle East, in Asia, except one or two in the Far East. So democracy, let's call it. So the end of kingships will be primarily in Europe. And this situation is a European war as well, that they want to control their own assets, their own ways. And we have to see the end of kingship in a time frame of less than a handful of years. We are on the verge of really seeing one of the most advanced technologies. And my dilemma at the moment sits how to do it. How and the way to release this technology. As one of our colleagues said recently, everything has been achieved. It's just how we can put it to humanity. The knowledge never been seen. It can change everything. The knowledge and the structure, which has been taught thoroughly, but nobody has looked at it. The breakthrough technology coming up, all of you know it. Without a doubt. We got to see, we have to carry nations and then leadership of the nations in a matter of collective leadership as a human race. Then we have the breakthrough. But kingships, handful of years, not much, maybe less than a decade. Maybe in some nations, much, much less. The corona, if it takes shape and people lose their family and their friends before Christmas, what is planned, or the next year after the injection, people revolt. This is one thing.
Does it?
Pardon?
Sorry, but does it have to come to that? that family and friends are going to go?
They have planned it.
They have planned it, but are we in agreement with their plans that we allow them?
Have anybody made any objection up to now?
I think a lot of people have made objections, and I have
Yeah,
seen a lot of
but
people
collectively,
arrested.
yep. It's what we need to understand is that how people can do anything about it. We can, as a KESHE Foundation, we can, and we're taking steps. We're taking massive steps in doing this.
I think it needs to be planned over the right time period. And if we're thinking a few years ahead, a lot can happen in those few years.
The way I see it, or the way it looks like, we lose tens of thousands by December, what do you call it, January, February, if the injections go through. This is now the corner to the wall. And they want to vaccinate only, all the nations want to vaccinate 60% of the population. And if you go through the structure, take unemployed, long-term unemployed, over 65, and children, will give you that figure. You got to understand.
Mr. Cash, did he drop?
Somebody muted me.
I'm
I
sorry.
got bounced earlier, so I don't know.
It could have been me. I was trying to pick up someone right next to you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. We see a massive movement, but who is going to do anything? Soldiers from different countries are moved to different positions that they have no attachment. French soldiers were not used to kill the French soldiers, so French soldiers were used to kill the Spanish soldiers in the Second World War. Can I ask who is Zoom user, please? If we do not identify Zoom users, we will block and ban from the room.
I saw that earlier. I wasn't sure. Zoom user, please open your mic.
Is
Zoom user.
Zoom user is March.
Are you talking to me?
Yes. Why do you come under the Zoom user?
I take this address from the chat on from Stefania. I'm an knowledge seeker working with Stefania, and I ask if I can listen to this meeting. And,
yes, there's no problem listening, but we need your clear identity. Please come
my
back.
name I have to go out.
Go out and come back in with your own name. Zoom.
How come I can change the name? Sorry. Okay, no worries. I listen in a second.
Just a moment. The Zoom user's microphone is not open. Is he under two identities here?
My name, I think is my name is you can see is Rhino, but if you don't see this name, I don't know. I'm sorry. If it's a problem, I get out and no worries.
No, I don't see Rhino.
Oh, I don't know.
I do. I
saw
see
Rhino.
Rhino. I see
Yeah.
Rhino's
Yeah,
0406.
yeah, I'm me that one.
Okay. No, it's
So-
just that we want to know who's the Zoom user who just appeared.
I guess
I don't
Zoom
know.
user disappeared now.
So I can stay. Can I stay?
Yes, it's okay, no
Okay,
problem.
thank you.
It came from what we're told. Zoom user hasn't spoken, but it's disappeared. If you see, just delete.
Fine.
Anybody sees this Zoom user? It says from Denver. I got a good idea who it is. But let's see. That is in principle what we visage, and that's what is in the agenda. And is part of the structure of the work.
Mr. Kesh, do you think that they had contingency plans for you coming out? I mean, because they make plans decades in advance. Did they see you coming, do you think?
Bill Gates is aware of us for nearly 15 years. We negotiated with Bill Gates in second half of, 2006, 2007, 8. 2007, we negotiated. They are aware of the technology. There are a lot of work going on in the technology. I was talking to a guy this afternoon that he belongs to a military part of a nation, and he says they had a team of 52 doctors and scientists working, and they have proven part of the technology. As they didn't have the references, they had to go to quantum physics to prove the correctness. All nations are working on this technology. It's not that the free patent has given a lot of freedom to the other nations. But they don't need to disclose, because if they understand it and then they develop it, they can do what they like. This was the whole concept of opening the technology. But some nations are using it in different way, and some other nations are using it, some individuals other ways. Not everything is coming out of KESHE Foundation. If you listened, I listened to a guy, a top scientist, he said, we read your patent 50 times. 52 scientists, all doctors and scientists, we read your patent 50 times to understand before we could do. And this is unlimited fund, he said, we have to do. We have unlimited fund and research on your technology. And that's within past 24 hours we have nations who are spending a lot of time and science behind the technology. It's not if they've seen, they know it can be done, it could be there. But how to do it? It's very much, as I said, I could have shown the lift and motion 2011, 2010. Iran carried on in 2008. And now we decided to do it in a different way in the KESHE Foundation, which everybody can do. But would anything come to KESHE Foundation? Are we looking for financial return on it, or just enough to cover our bases? This is what teaching, free teaching is. When I was listening to this conversation, in past 2 weeks, a lot of things has changed. We got to know more, we see more, and the knowledge is in a deep process of changing. I can release within 5 minutes technology to you lot on the table by tomorrow morning. You all will fly. But what purpose would that serve?
I think we want to help everyone, not just ourselves.
Yeah, but the thing is, as I said, we have to take leadership in a different way that we can structure. And I have taken that step. Very soon you will hear. KESHE Foundation will not work on the sidelines. KESHE Foundation will work directly on the heads, and in a very different way. We have to bring in the new technology, not just try to fight the old. And to do that, we have to sit with the nations who are in power, who can do so.
Basically, you have to trump it.
Yeah, to dump it, yeah.
Trump and dump.
Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Keshe. I have a question, Mr. Keshe.
Yes.
This is Gatwa. There was a lot of hope in recent months about Iran cooperating, that we are going to show flights from Iran and so forth and so forth. Is that still on schedule, or?
We are in every, you got to realize Iran, and I was talking about this afternoon. Iran as in the government, has the technology in kept. Iran as a technology for public is not in domain. It's not in public domain. And this is what we are trying to do, to bring the old and the new together. What is already there developed, plus what the public will have. And our discussions are at that level. I'll be returning to Iran very, very soon. And I will head Iran in a different direction through science and technology. We have received allegiance to the science and technology and the KESHE Foundation from the top people.
Thank you very much. That was my question, really.
In a very short time, shorter than many of you can think, I'll be returning to Tehran. And we'll lead very much.
We look forward to that, because then we are sure things will change immediately thereafter. Thank you very much.
So. There are huge risks involved, but those who take the risk make the change. And in a very short time, we will see the change, we will see the technology, and we'll head it directly from Tehran. I'll be returning to Tehran in a very, very short time.
I think time is of the essence, Mr. Keshe. Thank you.
We were waiting for allegiance and support, and we received it fully. And in this game, you have to have people who support you. And I've given my word I will return to Tehran in a very, very short time. And from there, we'll see.
That's very good news, Mr. Keshe. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome. The KESHE Foundation team outside the boundary of the system have achieved lift, and they've achieved their position. And we will soon add to their knowledge and to the others. We'll see. You might never know when the next Zoom teaching might come from.
Well, something along that line had been my question before the Denver guy bounced me out of the meeting with regard to how we were a faith-based system, and the technology, in a way, the way I look at it, challenges the belief of the God particle, because you've shown us there's more than the particle. And so I know you have to go down this process of everyone has to out themselves. You know, I wish you hadn't said that you're going to Tehran, but you know what you're doing. And so I worry about you traveling and such, but I think you got it under control. But I think it's until the magic trick, I don't like to even put it that way, until something is shown, that's when they really become threatened. And it seems like every time we get to show something, whether we go to the press club in DC or something like that, something always seems to find its way to happen and people out themselves. So we're very patient, Mr. Keshe. We're in it for the long haul, okay? We'll support you.
Thank you very much. You got to understand what happened in the American showing of the technology. The person was told cannot show. And we found out days later how things were done. And the gentleman at the moment has disappeared. Technology was taught, we worked with him. We've seen this with many of people. That's why I don't teach anymore to anyone. People we thought, after they learned, they disappeared and they became of their own standard. And we've seen this even with our medical side. I stopped teaching individuals because those individuals took and run. They didn't teach. And this is part of the whole, what we learn, what we see, and what do you call it? It's a long haul, it's a long job, and we need to be aware of it. It's
Well, that's why I'm pushing towards the development of a platform for the universal community or the Universal Council, where it's independent of the gatekeepers, so that, because they're already monkeying around with Telegram, they're already monkeying around with other things that they have access to, and so communications that are being sent aren't being sent. So that's why in the interim we can focus on building a platform through this technology that the good intention that one sends through sharing of knowledge gets to that destination, but it's still on a physical dimension, so that people that are coming in new, that wanting to learn, that's their motivation, that they still have access to it, and how we can go about fostering that platform that doesn't rely on the matter state of the internet's in a way that it builds on it as a it becomes the new backbone of communication.
Just 1 second, please. It is, in a way, we are aware, in a way, we understand. That there's a time for a change. There's a time for big change. And if you look at it, we paid for nearly 5-10 years at $100 a barrel oil. And this $100 barrel oil was given as guarantee collectively to the nations that if anything goes wrong, we guarantee you. The money which was made in the oil time, if you look now, oil is about $37, $38 a barrel. We went to $120, $150. All that money collected was to support this time, this recession, this time of lockdown. The governments have received the backing that they will be backed if they lose anything, but it brings in population control. You got to realize closing all the trading shops of the nation makes a big dent in the population, in the income of the nation. But apparently governments have no problem accepting it. This shows two clear things to us. The government, elected governments, are Mickey Mouse governments, where the running governments are behind, and they make the decisions. And those elected governments are the ones who actually has no say, but the ones who put them in that position have already made the decision and already cashed in. So you will not see any problem with the government's growth in the next year, 2 years, because somehow magically all these numbers will add up. Because, as I said, there's less people to spend money on pension, less doctors. Those doctors who thought they're actually doctors and they're covered and everything else will be the first victims. Because if you look, as we watched, both in America and in China and in Iran, who died most in the front line? All doctors. Did the nation care? No. Did the nation care they lost their nurses? No. And if you're destroying a percentage of population which relies on medical care all the time, and you got rid of it, the expenses was the medical care. Why do you need to keep it? Doctors, tens of thousands, nurses, tens of thousands a year, and tens of thousands of doctors looking after these old people. Now they're not needed. Why do they say they want to cover the healthcare and the nurses first? The plan is a very clear structure cut. We just need to be wise to see it. Not to be negative and just create fear. It's just to be open and see. Many people we saw dying, doctors and professionals. If you go back to one of the KESHE Foundation, even during the time of Iran, we had the intro with so many doctors who died. When you don't have the need for, why do you have to pay for? It's a big game, very, very big game. But on the other hand, does the new technology will be allowed to break through, or we break through without them knowing, in a way of hitting back in a very hard way? But as I said, it's just time will tell. Time will tell very, very rapidly. Even my return to Iran does not guarantee 100% that we'll break through in it, but it will be, it's a attempt we have to do. We have two choices, three choices sits on the table of the KESHE Foundation. We take the technology, and by the request of the new administration landing in US, we take the technology by the request of the Chinese, we sit with the Chinese, or go through the facility provided by the Iranians, return to Iran and do it through Iran. And then from Tehran bring all the forces together. But would they allow this to happen? That's another point. As you said, we have involved a lot in death of the soul, and in Iran we have created a fury with religious groups. You've got to realize, we in the KESHE Foundation, especially with Iran, I have touched the nerve of the Iranian nation. And I'm going in a lion den by going back to Iran. In so many ways, it's a positive move, it's a positive step. But we are breaking the taboo of one of the most dogmatic nations in the path of religion. And if you were in very recent teaching, one of the Iranians in the background asked, or Muslims asked, were you present in Medina? Are you buried in Medina? It means referring, are you returned of Muhammad? And it was answered very diplomatically, very politically correct, as you should say. It's not that we are, as I have seen somewhere written, that we are a sect and we are with Scientologists. Nothing to do with that. They are a fulfillment of all the wishes of the man over centuries and thousands of years. Anybody wants to attach themselves to find notoriety, that's their problem. And we see these, if we didn't exist, they had nothing to write or to confirm their existence.
Sorry for intervening, because I read in the chat EU, not you like knowledge seekers or someone who is present here. I refer for this agenda for depopulation, for making clear. Sorry, I respond to Thomas. I respond to Thomas because I read in the chat regarding the agenda of depopulation. When you destroy, no, when. When I say destroy the family, destroy the medicine, the no science, the educational system, destroying by medical system. You have a lot of how to say, people sick where it is not possible to treat, which means the agenda point by point it's making the point. Sorry, I intervened for clarification. It's not we or we like a person. It's like this red circle who making the agenda for millennium for creating this point by point. I think this for clarification is not.
Thank you very much. Essentially, what we got to bear in mind is that we have to deliver enough technologies that it creates enough space gap in time for it to be done. And we have the time. If we get everything right, we have the time to bring the change. And the only problem is that no one has asked a very big question in the background of the whole structure. Where has Gates Foundation money gone to? In mid 2007, it had $31 billion in it. $31 billion. And where is it gone to? Why do we have this picture in the center? Do we know?
We just see the North American team on our screen, Mr. Keshe.
Not seeing a picture here.
There's a picture of someone on the screen. We lost the center picture. Yeah. It was Policy's Duncan. His picture was in the middle. We got to be able to bring what I call shocking technology in delivery, in a rapid research development that will bring the change, will bring the notice, the change people listen. And I think by end of this week, we will deliver that. We actually have it all done ready. It's just trying to make sure we are in 100%. Maybe within the next week, 10 days, if things goes all the way we planned, we'll deliver such a technology. Massive breakthrough. But they'll come out of Iran. I will not release this technology in Europe. I will take it to Tehran and release it from Iran. And in that process, we change the dynamism of the what we call science. And a lot of nations don't like such a move, but when you take a leadership, you have to stand by your decisions and take a lead in the science and technology.
Well, that kind of goes back to my thought about why the controllers do not allow a debt jubilee where we start over, where historically, when we've gotten to points where you don't have enough to support the people anymore because the debts can never be repaid, why we historically we would go to a debt jubilee. Why at this point do we need to pry the hands off the levers? Can we create that space gap to allow such a thing to like not a reset the way they want it to, but in a reset that benefits humanity?
I believe every life is precious to be saved, even if you're 100 or 200 or 50 or 5. And in so many ways, it's time to create that condition. I don't agree with what is said by Gates, and I have the technology to bring that position. In a way, we declare war on vaccination and this kind of state of mind in the next few days, next few weeks, where we show a new technology that the viruses don't exist in it. Why do you need to vaccinate in it? People have to understand to what it is, and to be able to understand the philosophy and understanding of the technology. How many more vaccinations in space? This vaccination should make Bill Gates bankrupt if we do it the right way. Because whatever is planned to become rich will lose with it, and he will be chased. I envisage him and his family in a different position. If a new technology is delivered that people become aware the viruses are part of our life, viruses are part of our new life in the space, so how many times can we vaccinate? The soul has to be ready to go on its own trip, not to be forced to trip. And this is one of the cornerstones of the work I see is the KESHE Foundation work in the time to come. And we need to show it, we need to deliver it, and we are in a position to do so. When I stand with the new systems every day, I marvel the beauty of the knowledge and the technology. And we will deliver such a, what I call a punch, in a very short time. But this punch will come out of Iran. I'll take the technology with me back to Iran. That will change a lot of things with it.
Mr. KESHE,
yes.
What does the present debacle in the U.S. election, is that affecting the project in Arizona at all?
No, why? Why should it?
Well, there's many games being played there about who's in control. So I was just wondering if everything was still in control.
You got to realize 2 points. I'm not anti-American, but I have never respect for the Americans. I lost my respect for Americans at a very young age of 10, 12. I look at the structure of the people of a nation, but not as a nation. And in that process, we look at the people we work with, and we value their work and their partnership and the people who are within the work of the foundation. How the government will bring, it's totally different way. It's what we got to realize is to bring the technology and science and knowledge to be respected, but to be delivering what the need is. As I was saying this afternoon, when it came to Corona, we delivered the cup. You bring the push. When there's shortage of food, I deliver the cup of food. When it comes to the heat, I deliver a cup of heat. And in so many ways, I can deliver as many cups as a man can live a corporate life.
Thank you.
Don't thank me. Thank knowledge seekers who kept the foundation in public. We are not a cult. We are structured as a scientific organization. We know what to do, and we are not in the hand of no nation, no government, no organization. So we can work very clearly with it. Very clearly with it. But we have reached the point of turn, and as I said many times, by 21st of March, will bring a lot of changes. And one of the changes has to be done now that it brings the rest in. And we will interfere very soon with new technologies, massive, massive technologies, very simple, very much like the cup of life. All of you know it, but you wonder why didn't we do it this way? But in so many ways, it's a development for the enhancement units for preparation to what I call deep space travel. And all this knowledge is a gift to the new life to come. That starts life on this planet and beyond in a peaceful way. It's a gift, a celebration of new life. And new life will bring a lot of new changes. If we get to do what we want to do in a very short time, you will see what we will deliver. And I have no fear of any intimidation or whatever.
So in a way, Randy, Mr. Keshe had mentioned that the United States will have so many of their own internal problems that they won't be able to focus on other countries. And so in a way, we've created a constitutional crisis where the people that seem to matter to themselves, the politicians or the voter population, they're focused on transparency and honesty, the Constitution, what's going on here, all these things. They don't have time to focus on doing things in other countries. So it's kind of, in a way, it's been created to help Mr. Keshe and help everyone else to find their own path also, if I can say that.
Maybe, but it's using the opportunity to the best of its abilities. And this is what is to be. This is what we set out to achieve.
Because in a way, if people, they talk the talk, but now they have to walk the walk, their intention, if their intention is to be honest, humble, truthful, peaceful people, well, they'll have to really prove it this time. And you can see how people are starting to see what's really going on. And if the Constitution is a document that exists, it's not a living document that changed. If it's freedom and inalienable rights, well, then everyone in the world should enjoy those freedoms and those rights at the very least. And this is the way that we have to talk. We talk, but now we have to walk it. We can't just, let it go on the way it has been. Thank you.
We'll see what will come. We'll see what will happen. It's the technology has to be a game changer. And if we cannot deliver such a technology, we have to step down. And I have never stepped down. The advancement in science has to be part of the total understanding.
Mr. Keshe. Good evening. This is Kay Coles from London. Thanks for your teaching. I just had a question referring to this depopulation and the agenda behind it. Obviously, at this stage, beyond the shadow of the doubt, this is definitely a policy. I was just wondering, with his own reflection, what does that mean if the foundation was to deploy the enhancement unit? Would there not be an obstacle to try to compensate?
What you mean?
I'm trying to say, with the enhancement unit, obviously, it is more or less an obstacle for their agenda. So from one side, they're trying to depopulate. From the other side, we're trying to put the people back health to exactly where they deserve. And so we are really counteracting. We are really, the opposition group. So we are a force against their agenda. So would they not do everything and anything within their power to eradicate and eliminate that problem for them?
How haven't they tried up to now? Can I ask one thing? Because we're keeping a very close eye on all the attendees everywhere for a particular reason. Can we know who is Julie with the black heart, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie. I joined the group through Randy, who you had an interview with last week.
Okay, I understand. No, I just want to know people who we are aware of what is going on. Thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. Would you rather me have my full name rather than the heart?
We prefer to know people, yes, because it's what we call is like a family gathering. We're all open to know where we are.
Okay.
And then we prefer to be very transparent and open.
All right, I'll change that
you.
after this call.
Thank
no
you very
problem.
much. Thank you. You must have a red heart, not a black heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, the problem with what they will see with us is they need us. You got to understand, as I explained to one of the world leaders in a very private conversation in the very recent past, you can inject us with injection for corona, but you have to remember one thing: you will die of heart attack or a cancer. You need us to save your life. The guy who developed it, the guy who uses it, the guy who takes a bribe on it, they all have to die of a disease. And they all come back if the enhancement unit can help them. As I said many times, I am like an arrow with two heads. While one can save life, the other one can take life. It's a sword with two edges. Do they want to stand a chance of, with their Parkinson's, with their cancers, with their children sick? Or would they like to eliminate that chance from their table? And none of them up to now have answered. As we heard, Putin is stepping down because of Parkinson. President of China suffers from Parkinson. German Chancellor suffers from Parkinson. And a few others suffer from the same disease in the leadership around the world. We have seen this, but at the end of it, do they want to stop the enhancement unit? But they know that's the only option for their life. I said to them, try to stop. Who's going to save your life and your loved ones? I said, you spend all the funds you have to look after me that I stay safe, because I'm the only one who can save your lives at the moment. Now you answer.
Mr. Keshe, thank you very much for the answer. I wanted to ask you this question a few times. I thought I postponed it. I know you sound bold and it might not be advisable, but isn't it easier just to somehow Foundation finds a way to just mute and shunt these people who are doing the evil work, the evil doer, the world's gangsters?
The thing is, we've worked through the KESHE Foundation ethos. These people, when you elevate their soul, they serve better than you trying to eliminate them. And the process is very, very simple. And taking people out, changing and killing is not the answer to any solution. Finding peace and tranquility and way with it, yes. And we sacrifice a lot, we give a lot, we allow a lot, but we have to change the course. We got to see what triggers us to think that's the only solution. Maybe mankind by killing has another solution to show power for centuries or thousands of years. But is it the only solution? Or isn't it easier to elevate somebody's souls? We get sentenced, we are guilty of theft, we are guilty of whatever. You get sentenced 20 minutes in the enhancement unit. Or would you prefer 20 years in prison, fee than in prison? Next time when you do wrong, you ask the judge, I accept 20 minutes in the enhancement unit for 14 days to elevate myself. See which way the judge will give you the judgment.
Mr. Keshe, God ever forbid, heaven forbid, I didn't mean to actually kill them. I meant at soul level, God bless you. I meant at soul level. I don't want anybody to kill.
We cannot do that. The only thing is, this is what I said in a very, very short time. Even if you were in Lens and you've seen the system, you were there, Kaushan. Even the new, since we set the system out, has changed. The system is totally upside down changed in a way for a faster, speedy result and a direct result. And in so many ways, the ethos of the work has to be, I cannot wait in a space for one day, humans wait. One day in a space is nothing, it's time gone in a second, a flash. Would I allow the body of the man to be consumed by a virus, or I go in and within seconds I do something with it? And the same is with the elevation of the soul. You go to a judge, you're sentenced to, let's say, whatever you've done wrong. You want to go to prison for 20 years, or you accept 20 minutes in the machine. And you come back perfect, but when you go 20 years, you come back worse than you went in. The whole structure of the society will change with this new technology. And we're just about to release it. As I said, it'll be taken with me to Iran to be shown in Tehran. This is the promise I've given to Iranian leadership. And it'll be that way. And we move a lot of things into Tehran in the coming short time. We should be able to empty the prisons as much as we empty the hospitals. And one of the biggest things is freeing man from the prison of his own physicality. And that'll be the completion. But time will tell. And how it will develop, time will tell.
Mr. Keshe, James Venstra would like to open his mic and speak with you. James.
Now we got the Julie Red Heart back.
Mr. Venstra, would you like to speak with Mr. Keshe? Please open your mic.
I think he did, but nothing came across. Oh.
Okay, he said not right now. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So, Mr. Keshe, going back to your ethos, basically, in a way, it's to do no harm. How do people build the confidence to, like in our current situation, embrace the virus in a way that let it feed you, don't let it do harm to you?
The thing is, we have the technology to understanding of it and the process of its work is there. This is not the only virus. How can we use this energy to the positive way when we dismantle it? And that's all the key to the whole, the secret to the whole operation. Viruses in the universe are the sources of energy for life if you know how to use it. It's just know how to cook the thing in a way you want it. It's like these it's like your blackberries. There are hundreds of them on one flower. And if you eat them without boiling them, they kill you. But if you boil them and put them through the process, they're a cure. And we have many examples of it. Viruses can kill us, but if we can process it, they become a solution. And now it's not a pot with a heater and a jam and some sugar that you can change it. It's understanding how to harvest the energy from them. That's all it is. The fear of the man from virus comes through his lack of understanding the virus.
Well, I'm just trying to find a way to kind of give them more confidence just by speaking about it in a way, how you would say, if you could say that if you use the waters from the cup of life or the cup of man proactively, you kind of build the condition within yourself to be able to make those things happen. That's
you have to use the cups at the time of need, not to be prepared to come something, to get something if it happens. You got to use the knowledge at the point of need, not to be used as a point of prevention unless there's a long-term use.
That's kind of what I was saying, is that it's not, if you focus on the virus, then you're taking kind of your eye off the totality. And what I was saying, that everyone seems to have little issues with other things, and while they're solving other problems, they're also working on their totality of connecting with the soul.
I want to give you an example. It's a very funny example, but it's got a lot of truth in it if you understand. If you listen to the speech of your president or American president in first speech a couple of days ago, since his election failure, he wanted to still show he's doing a big thing, and he gave a big job to Pfizer for the injection of the viruses, for injections. And while I was listening to his speech and the way he was happy to give 1 trillion whatever to Pfizer, being me and knowing different things. I said, I wonder if the Pfizer was the one who gave him the virus before elections to make sure, sir, we need you to give it to us, otherwise we can take you with it. And there is a lot of thinking why we get these things done. We haven't lost a single president or world leader to the virus yet, and they all had it. Why? Was it to scare them, or did they make an example of them?
Well, yeah, in a way, I see that it's like the clue poisoning in the rose garden, where you see none of the Democrats have gotten it, just the Republicans.
Well, it depends which side of the fence you sit. We have to, not only we have to, we have it to do delivery of a technology. And I keep on warning very much in advance, for this is about to come. I have released the knowledge of universe into the hand of very few elite scientists of the KESHE Foundation. The ones we trust that they will not walk away with, but they will serve the foundation. And you will see the outcome of it, because it's time for us to bring that change. There were a lot of things needed to become in the right position, the place. A lot of people had to be in the right place for this change to come. And everything has come together in past few months. And we have no problem with this. We're ready, as they say, we are already able to deliver. Don't have fear of your governments, have fear of yourself, that you can accept what is about to come. We'll bring the governments to their knees to accept, not through anything else but vast amount of technology which will be released. Many of us heard the president said the first telephone calls will come from Iran when he becomes the president. Now he's not there. Now we understand what, with the change of the head of the military, was in his head. He will nuke the Iran to submission, that will call that we want to stop. But would anybody go into that extent to do it? We have a reckless guy who is prepared to do anything. What will be the outcome of such action? Or do we stand and watch it? And if there was such a danger, would I stay outside and not to go in? And I would say, return sender. You send, you'll get it back. But I hope you're prepared to receive it the way it comes back. The change in technology will force peace, and change in understanding the technology will bring confidence in the humanity. This is what we got to do. This is what the new technology will deliver. as I said, one acknowledging is don't be afraid of what they're going to do to us. They have to be afraid of what's going to happen to them when they do anything to us. The pattern of man has been always to attack and destroy, and nothing comes back. But with this knowledge, we take their soul. And the elevation of their soul will become nusta on their own neck to live with it. Try not to be negative, try to be positive, and you make it. The ones who are negative will create more energy to be wasted. And this is something which we cannot do, but in a way we have to be aware of. Now with the new technologies, we have the chance to bring the change, but the change has to be positive. Any other question?
I'm Dan from Romania, Mr. Kesh. How it influenced this quarantine from 3 weeks in the Austria, the exhibition in Linz? It's a good thing for showing the beauty of technology, or we are see what's happening next?
We the 2.5 weeks quarantine that's shuts down everything. We're literally back to supermarkets and what do you call chemists and the banks. What I said was very ridiculous. When you close all the businesses not to go to, why should the banks be open? There's no trade, there's no business. And we with Linz, we are total shutdown. We stepped down till first of the month. If there's going to be an extension, or maybe the extension comes only the ones who have received injections can go to supermarkets and the rest. This is a narrowing the options to the point of injection.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. And if it's possible, another question.
Yes.
I find my village of my mother, it's a very much person infected in quarantine and so on. It's my soul who decide what approach to the village, because the people in this village, it's a little bit not open mind regarding the technology. But my approach for responsibility for making, let's say, system of reactors, putting the guns of CAP 1, CAP 2, in different place, surrounding the place in top area, higher level, making, like I say, star formation, making little patch gradients between to cover all the village. It's my decision how I make this transfer of field or cover by soil level or the physical level to put in the.
It's nowadays you have the knowledge to go the easiest way. You have the you can reach people much easier if you understand the level of the soul, level of understanding of the soul. And the new technologies we deliver would give that opportunity for everyone to do so. Try to reach, try to understand the use of cup of man or a cup of the 5-second life till the new technology is delivered.
Thank you again for this not confirmation, for answering for question before we are putting the question in the world. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much. We got to understand, I try to take fear out of knowledge seekers. We taught you how to make the patches, we taught you how to make the system to overcome any injection. The ultimate goal is to have a free man, a man who can make a decision through his soul and the destiny of his own physicality. And that's the purpose of bringing the cup of man, now the 5 cups. Then we introduce the cup of food. If they come to ration that you have to get food, you need to have an injection. We can close a lot of doors. As it comes up, we release technologies. As it builds up, we release technologies. And it all depends how knowledge seekers will spread this around. The problem is you don't have access to any media. And there's a massive work that KESHE Foundation technology never comes on the public domain. And in that position, you have a lot of problem work to do. But as people learn how to make the cups, cup of food and cup of hell, or what they call heat or the warmth, it'll be learned very, very quickly. One of my biggest concern is if we teach this, we'll close the supermarkets for the government as there's nobody to take food from them. But that's a long shot if people go that way. But we will release the cup of food. If the pressure comes, we do the same with other things. But as I said, we put a lot of emphasis in completing our work to be released in a very short time.
Mr. Keshe, you had spoken in the past about Mitriism and as such. Just recently, there was a big celebration which coincided with Diwali.
Diwali.
And how in the capital there was a march for freedom and it was on a Saturday where it was also a celebration of that too. Can you speak about the historical significances between the two, or how they
Which two?
Well, how there's a lot of truth in history that's been handed down through religious and cultural events, and I hadn't really ever heard of Diwali before, and how that is.
Diwali. If you look at the history of Asia, we have celebrated all the time the understanding of different proposition, and how we I'm trying to find the right word for it. Diwali is a festival of light, and is a celebration of putting light as much as possible. It had a roots back in the history for what light was important to have. But hasn't got any more, doesn't have any more meaning than that. The festival of Diwali is just celebration of light as it is. But in general, there is nothing we can draw parallel to, or try to explain something on top of it. I came across it some 45 years ago for the first time, and I was explained by a very wise Indian man what it is, with a lot of love and care and understanding of Diwali, because it meant a lot to him. He was a Hindu, and he brought the childhood with him from India, and it explained a lot. If you read it, doesn't have a meaning, but if you actually be with somebody who brings it, explains a lot of light, a lot of wisdom, a lot of joy, a lot of being what I call serene, because you see, you don't need to make decisions in the dark. It's a celebration of light against the darkness, good against bad, or whatever you want to call it. There's nothing else to it. It's how we see them, how people celebrate it. Celebration of light, wisdom, more or less. I was fortunate to live with this man for a long time, and I learned a lot about the Hinduism and the path of Hindus, and how they believe and how they live, the true Hindu lives.
I had hoped that there was some connection for some that they could bridge to the creation of light, or the creation of matter through that, or the creation of the soul interaction.
It is the belief of what was in the past. The creation of life and light is totally different in that space. It's I was we look at that, we always associate with the light, but there is one step beyond it. Is knowledge of vision. The knowledge of vision is not to see with the eye, is to see, to feel the presence. As we start teaching different ways and parallel ways, is one of them is the knowledge of what we call the emotion of vision. To us is a sight, but but is in the dimension of universal position. Vision, there's no eye to see. It's the emotion we feel, and with it becomes a condition of light. And this position of vision is what we call the sight, or we see the light, or the objectivity of subject is the emotion of understanding what is made of, what it is, but how it reacts. In a physical condition, we look at it with the eye, but the emotion of vision is one of the points of confirmation of existence in the universe. We have no eyes, but we feel, we visualize the shape and everything else through the light, which the object creates, or a spectrum of lights that the object creates. And then that creates a different emotion. It gives us a dimension and all sorts, but we don't have an eye to see. We feel the emotion of the sight, the vision. And this is, as I said, mankind will come to know more about emotions than what he ever knew about his own life, like the sadness and the sorrow and the happiness. What I want to see, what is my vision? What I visualize and see as an emotional vision, to me could be joy, to you could be sadness. Depends what you structure the emotion to.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because a phenomenon happens to me that I can be in a completely dark room at night with my eyes closed, and it seems like a light, like you would be like if you were laying in the sun with your eyelids closed, that there's a light, but as soon as I open my eyes, there's no light. And I don't know how to, is that the emotion that manifests within you that tries to produce a light?
Is the expectation of what you want to see. We envisage things with our closed eyes, and when we open it, it's not there. It's like we pull the curtain up. We see the light. We see a lot of things with a closed eye. But we have never come to trust what we see, the reason we see it.
So as an experiment, I tried to slowly open my eye, and I've gotten to the point where I can barely open my eye a little bit, and I can still see the light, but it's like pulsating in a way. And I just think that that's just my imagination.
It all depends what we expect, what we want to see. Put it this way, how does a blind man see? Would see the light, doesn't matter if his eyes are closed or open. Or would he see with a vision? Through the soul. If you see through the vision of the soul, you are never blind, doesn't matter where you are. You try to look with the eye of the man, depends on what it is and what condition is under.
Well, I think the truth lies in that they're able, having never seen a color, they're able to describe a color that how can you imagine what you cannot see or have never seen or experienced? That's what always was remarkable for me for that respect, is that they know color without ever having witnessed color.
Yes, but it's the color they talk about. This is the color you and I talk about. Just because they can explain it doesn't mean they see it.
But if they point to a flower and say that's what I see as red and it's a red rose, then, or a white rose.
But are they blind visually, or are they blind to optional blind, I call it?
Well, as you said, are we, just because we can't see, are we truly blind?
Maybe.
Thank you very much for your teachings today, Mr. Keshe. I really appreciate it.
Welcome. We got a Reno 040672. Hands up.
Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Hello.
I'm from Italy.
Yes.
And my question is about cup number 4, the inertia cup. And I'm wondering, is this cup responsible for, in so many ways, depends how we build this cup. Is that cup responsible for temperature?
No.
Okay.
Inertia does not create temperature.
Well, because I understood the temperature is the interaction of inertia with the magnetic field of the planet, of the magma of the planet. And so I thought about maybe one guy in the in some place warm in the global made inertia cup, and then send this cup to me, and to the different field of inertia, I can make a different temperature in my country. Associate different cup from different part of the planet. This is my thinking about it. I don't know. I'm asking. I'm not sure.
No, unfortunately, no.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. But the answer sits somewhere in there if you look deep in it. Thank you very much. I'll step down if you want to carry on with anything else. Thank you very much.
Mr. Keshe, I want to thank you very much for all your contributions today. It's huge for all of us, because I see it as very encouraging. And I want to thank all the knowledge seekers for attending today and listening to my presentation earlier, and for spending your valuable time here today on, as we can see, an extremely important occasion. Thank you so much for today. I'm going to pass it over to you, Mark, and sign off here.
Okay, thanks so much, Mr. Keshe, Alex, everyone for being here. Thank you for sharing knowledge, for your presence and your service to humanity. As we can see, we're in the presence of a very special person named Mr. Keshe. And it's almost unspeakable what he's delivering here. It's so profound, and it's such strong knowledge that makes us feel very small, but he's bringing us and elevating our souls to reach a much higher level so we can be better people and we can serve better. So rather than play anything at the end, I'd just rather keep Mr. Keshe's words fresh in your mind and in your soul. So this has been the Keshe Corona Telegram meeting in English for November 15th, 2020. The hosts have been Alex Skoric, Mark Anderson, and mostly Mr. Keshe. So thank you so much for your presence with us today, Mr. Keshe. And I will end the meeting now.
Don't forget
Hopefully-
the meeting. Sorry, don't forget the
ahead.
meeting of Iranian or Farsi tomorrow
Yes. that
with
will-
Chinese, and I think I remember.
Okay, that would be and all these public meetings are open to everyone. Mr. Keshe encourages us to visit the different language communities as we consolidate into one planet, one nation, one race for world peace. So the Farsi meeting is at 6:30 p.m. CET time, as I understand it. So you're all welcome to be there and show your support and solidarity for all the language communities. We have Italy, France, Germany, Brazil, and so many others. If you speak Mandarin, you can probably find a meeting there as well. And you don't actually have to speak the language. You can be just present and register your support by your just being there. So
And
thank you. Yes.
sorry, Mark. And we have also two new classes, Hebrew and Hindi in public.
That is true as well. So this is growing and growing. And let's support each other with our presence. And it's very important to the people that are there in that language community to see the others coming in. And they realize that they're not alone in this and that we're all working together. So feel free to join any of these public meetings. We probably should have some sort of schedule here where you can get the Zoom numbers and room numbers and so on, but I don't have them all in my head. So
I have them. I can post them here if you like.
would you? I think that would be very good.
Just give me a minute.
Will do. Anyone like to add anything while we wait for Jalal to bring up this?
Hello, this is Marie from the Universal Council.
Hello, Marie.
Hello. The soul teaching is moved from Monday to Thursday evening, I think 5 o'clock. So there is no soul teaching tomorrow at 5 p.m. CET, but on Thursday, 5 p.m. CET.
And this would be a private teaching, correct, Marie?
Yes, this is a private teaching.
At least at this point.
Yeah.
And encourage anyone to make your application to the KESHE Foundation to become a private student. It does take a little while to get vetted and go through the security process, but be assured that it will be picked up and it will be looked at. And if you go through the vetting process, you will become a private student of the KESHE Foundation and Mr. Keshe, because he's sharing his knowledge with us. It's not our knowledge, it's his knowledge he's teaching us. And we're very grateful, even though we don't understand a whole lot of it. Anything else, Marie?
No, that was all. Thank you. I hope this teaching is put on the YouTube very fast, because I came in very late. So I would love to listen to it.
Okay, does anyone here have that ability to put it on the YouTube?
Yes, I do.
Ed?
Yeah.
I usually wait for somebody to send me the processed video, and then I edit it to shorten it to just Mr. Keshe's part.
Yes.
And then I put that up on my YouTube channel. And then later on, I usually also put the entire video for those who like to hear Alex's teaching as well.
Very good, and thank you.
What is your YouTube channel?
I would have to post it. I'll put it in the North American Corona Team group again.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Keshe, for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe, and everyone.
Just 1 second, Mark. Just don't close. Let me.
No, let me know when you're ready.
Just for the Hebrew, let me put the timestamp.
Take your time, Jalal. We have all the time.
Yeah.
And of course, on Tuesdays, you have the One Planet, One Nation, One Race for World Peace. And that is a public platform which you can share. Of course, the Knowledge Seekers Workshop, which Mr. Keshe has delivered 354 in a row of 3 or 4 hour workshops, which you are welcome to go and see on YouTube or on the KESHE Foundation, or perhaps in the KESHE Wiki.
For the Hebrew and Hindi, the new teaching is in Wednesday at that time.
Mm-hmm. And Alex, you'll be teaching tomorrow, is that correct? Monday, for the Portuguese language community? Would you share some of that with us, please?
Yes, it is. I just posted. It's 2400 CET tomorrow night. It'll be the 6th class. That's 20 hours Brazilian time.
Thank you. Anything else, Jalal, you'd like to say or post?
No, it's okay. Thank you, Mark.
All right. I want.
Thanks so, Mr. Keshe, and
Yes.
all of you.
Yes. Anyone else would like to add before we end the meeting?
Yes, I'd like to add something. Everyone should attend these Portuguese teachings that Alex does, because you're going to learn another language. As you hear Alex talk in English, you'll hear the Portuguese translation, and that's one way to learn a different language. And these teachings are phenomenal. I attend them, even though it keeps me up late at night. That's how we become knowledge seekers, is sharing all our knowledge, regardless of race, creed, color, or language. Thank you today for everyone's presence.
Thank you, Randy. Would anyone like to add anything else, please?
Hi, Mark, it's Dean here. I'd just like to add to everybody, thank you for a very beautiful evening, a very rewarding conversation I've listened to tonight. Thanks to Mr. Keshe for that. The knowledge, as usual, very touching and rewarding to know that Mr. Keshe is present with us and here for humanity. We really need this right now. And to all the guys in Canada and America, I know there's a lot going on, but just be peaceful inside. Just be present with yourself, because it just makes such a big difference when you're very still inside. You can create a reality outside that's completely different. Do not get sucked in by all that's going on around you. Just be centered within inside yourself. Be peaceful, and be present with yourself. Be present with your soul. Will make a vast difference to the situations that you find yourselves in.
Dean.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, Jalal.
Hi, Dean. We thought you are locked down.
We have just been locked down, Jalal. It's not happened yet, but it's apparently going to happen on Tuesday. I don't know the full extent of the lockdown, but I would imagine it's the same as last time. The only thing that will be open is food shopping. Other than that, nothing else will be open.
Are you still in Linz?
I'm still I'm actually staying. I'm present in Linz now, and now I cannot go anywhere else. I have no intentions to at the moment anyway. So yeah, I'm present in Linz in these moments. Yes, I've been to the exhibition hall, but as of now, it's only staff that can go in and see to the plants and to make sure everything's okay. Other than that, there's not going to be any movement now to be able to do anything, as Mr. Keshe has just pointed out.
Are you within the dome of influence, so to speak?
Well, the dome of influence, once it's effective and once it's present, I think will encompass all of us.
And I want to thank the Creator for spending so much time on this planet to help humanity get its affairs in order.
Stay safe, Dean. Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you too. I wish you all the best, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Keshe, for seeing this through.
We're all in it and we're all part of it. And maybe it's the first time as a race we can bring the change all together with it. And that's the beauty of it. It's not one anymore. We used to say it was a Muhammad, to say, well, Christ. This is all of us this time. We all become the Christ and Muhammad and the rest of it. And this time we know why we are doing it, and it's done in a peaceful way, with knowledge. And this is the beauty of it. And this is one of the beauties of it. As I said, it's a collective work, and it's becoming more collective work. Thank you very much for all of you being there, and in a way we all carry part of the corner of this huge carpet, which is not only humanity, beyond humanity, but we understand more about ourselves in this process. Thank you very much for being there.
We all add our field strength to see this through.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. It's very important that you added those words, that we're all in it together.
We learn from you day and night, Mr. Keshe.
We have no choice. They have left us no choice. We share together, but at the same time, we try to work independently as well, that we can share more. We'll see the beauty of it. There will come time, we'll see.
It's a fantastic future. And there's going to be so many smiles on so many people. And as you've said in the past, by serving, as everyone starts to serve, we're going to run out of things to serve and we may become quite bored. We look forward for that day.
Me too.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Keshe.
Good night.
Good night, all. Good night, Mr. Keshe.
Okay. So this has been the Keshe Corona Telegram meeting in English for November 15th, 2020. It's the North American team, and we've just been taken all over the world with knowledge that's shared with us and shared so that we can share with others. So it looks like we're doing very well, and we're going to continue to do well, even though all these things between elections and viruses and injections. Mr. Keshe is going to finally lay down the ground rules of how this planet is to behave so that we can finally join with the universal community. Thank you all for attending, and thank you for your service to humanity. I'll go ahead and end the meeting now.